Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to a video where I make a D&D character, or rather remake a D&D character. You may or may not know that every Sunday, most Sundays, when we can get together, I play a Dungeons & Dragons campaign that we live stream called Sunday Morning Heroes. I play with Briarstone, Demonac, and A Kiss for Luck. And I play a character in that called, alternatively, Tau Gilmore, or the Widow, depending sort of on what role I'm playing in that particular situation. The Widow is a sort of a mystical, assassin-y kind of character, is her vibe. And that is primarily fueled through the sort of in beta test Mystic class. This is part of the Unearthed Arcana content on the Dungeons & Dragons website, where they add a variety of rules and content, stuff like that. Some of it is playtest level, kind of beta test material. Other things they put out are more like optional rules and whatnot. And the Mystic class drew me right from the beginning. It's the reintroduction sort of to psionics to 5th edition D&D, because 5th edition D&D does not have a psionics class yet, and the Mystic class is sort of providing that. And they have recently, a few weeks ago at this point, put out the third iteration of this class. The first file they put out had levels 1 through 5. The second file they put out had levels 1 through 10. It is from that version, the 1 through 10 version, that I created Tau in the first place. But since then, they've come out with a third version of the file, which is levels 1 through 20. And each one of these has pretty dramatically transformed the class as well, as they try out new options and play test different stuff. The second version, the one that I was playing, was relatively interesting to play, relatively speaking, in that it had the right set of abilities to do the kind of character I was looking for. And I was really happy with the kind of feel I had for Tau, but didn't have a very wide slew of interesting options, and mostly she just stabbed something using her lethal strike ability, which was fantastic single target damage, almost too impressive in certain situations when it really worked out. Ultimately less useful. She really hit her sort of peak of the power curve right at level 5, where she could do incredible burst damage, but that literally was the peak. She was never going to be able to do more damage than that. And I always compared it at the same time. That's also when the wizards get Fireball, and my case was always Fireball was always going to do, or almost always going to do, more damage than Tau's ability. The difference is that Tau was purely single target damage, so did really impressive explosions against a single boss. But Tau didn't have that many interesting things. And so with this third iteration of the class, which now goes up to level 20 finally, they changed a few things around. A couple of things I love, a couple of things I kind of disagree with, but overall it means that Tau has a lot more options now, which is really interesting. But it means I have to recreate the character at this point if I'm going to use these new rules, which are probably just, they're more interesting and more balanced, right? There's a lot more options, but the power is sort of spread out a little bit more in a couple of different ways. So I have to remake the character at this point. And so the challenge will be to use this new version of the Mystic while still ending up with something that feels very much like Tau. Now, one of the things that some people do, especially when a new version of D&D comes out, is they sort of look at the character classes as is, and they look at them as constraints. And it's important not to think, as much as possible, don't think of your character as the class first. Instead, come up with sort of concept for your character, and then figure out what class lets you best execute that concept. Sometimes it's even a multi-class. In fact, I debated with this change to possibly actually go, because Tau's currently a level 6 character, and I actually considered going level 5 Mystic and 1 level of Cleric, in an effort to find sort of a sideways way to end up with the same feel. That being said, I've taken another look at the class. I'm pretty sure we can keep going straight Mystic here, and be really, really happy with it. So that's what we're going to try to do here. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to work on it. What the hell? Let's make a video for it. I actually find that for certain things, I have an easier time kind of working out the details now if I'm talking about it. So it's a video, so let's do that. So for those of you, you can download this Mystic class from the official, it's official content, but still in beta test. You can get it from the Wizards website, especially if you just Google Unearthed Arcana. You can get a list of all their Unearthed Arcana stuff, which includes like more Wizard variants, more Ranger variants, extra feats, all kinds of good stuff like that. Really excellent. If you're going to play a game, do check with your Dungeon Master to make sure that he or she is cool with bringing in this extra content, but other than that, you're good to go. So, to recap, okay, Tau, so we're going to be a Mystic, level 6, okay? For those of you who don't know, for the campaign, Briarstone, who is our dungeon master, loves to roll for all the things, and he always rolls for stats. And as someone who's sort of risk averse, usually I'm like, I don't want to roll for stats, but it's Briarstone's campaign, so I mean, we didn't have to. But you had to. I mean, come on. So we rolled for stats, and luckily I got pretty good. Not as good as a Kiss for Luck got, but I got pretty good stats. Also because we are only 3 players, and the adventure that we're running the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign, or the Elemental Princes campaign. I think it's called Princes of the Apocalypse, the book. It's an adventure designed for a group of 5 characters, and we're only 3 people. As a result, he also allowed us to grab a feat at level 1, sort of regardless of a race and everything like that. So we all effectively started with 1 extra feat. Since I started human, and I happened to roll a lot of odd-numbered stats, it meant that I actually felt fine using the normal human variant, where you get +1 to all stats, and then just take the free feat as a feat, as opposed to what almost everyone does. They take the variant human, where you only get +1 to 2 stats, but you start with a feat. I don't remember exactly, but something like that. So I'm a baseline human where I got +1 to all my stats, and then I got the feat. And of course, at level 4, I also took an addition to stats, which is why I'm sitting with these stats over here. So this is my actual character sheet that I use for the campaign. It's part of the Roll20.net website. And this is my existing version of Tau, and those are my stats over there. But the stats won't really influence things. In fact, there's a possibility with this remake that I would actually be tempted to end up with a higher int as opposed to dex. I'm going to probably leave it as is because it still makes sense. Again, my goal with Tau is still to make her feel like kind of a mystical assassin. Like, there's a reason I didn't go straight up rogue, but there's also a reason that I'm not necessarily going wizard or this or that. She does have some supernatural-ish things, and of course, one of the things with all D&D characters is the more powerful you get, the more sort of extraordinary and supernatural your powers get. It's sort of the way that it goes. I mean, I suppose if you went like straight up fighter, then that might be the most sort of vanilla situation there is. But that's about it. Everyone else mostly gets some weird stuff. Even the basic rogue starts to be a little weird. So it's kind of okay that there's a certain amount of like extra oomph and extra weirdness that goes in there. The argument as well with Tau is the whole thing is she's a believer of the sort of teachings of Ospector, I think is his name. There we go. It was a little laggy, probably because I hadn't loaded it in a while. Is it not on this character? Oh, Opencer, sorry. Opencer, which is a really lesser-known Forgotten Realms deity, basically the deity of scions and monks and things like that. And so she's sort of a disciple of that, is part of the reason that she got her power. And also, because of the things that have been going on, this is the first time that she's really been encountering a lot of weirdness, right? All these elemental cults and everything like that. So it does sort of make sense that you might tap in or be inspired by different things to sort of mix things up. But as much as possible, and we're going to see as we pick our new powers, I want to try to maintain the idea that she's mostly just an extraordinary sort of ninja, assassin, rogue-y kind of character is the feel that we're going to go for. And we'll see what we can achieve for that. So we can figure out the basic information at level 6. Obviously the +3 proficiency bonus, but that's a no-brainer. All characters at level 6 get that. We will be going through the list of the class features as we go down here. The stat numbers are going to be important. So we're going to have like talents. We have 2 talents that we're going to choose from. Talents, in this case, are basically like cantrips is the way they work. Disciplines known. We're going to have 3, but that's not exactly true because we're going to have an extra 2 from our like subclass, our style. I don't remember what they call it in here, but effectively I'm going to have 5 total disciplines. 2 are going to be from my particular school of the mystic. So there's going to be that. We're going to have, so our total psi points, this I believe is unchanged from previous version, which is 32. Each of my abilities costs a certain amount of psi points to use. Some of them have a variable psi points. Ballpark figure, an ability that takes 5 psi points is about the same as a 3rd level spell, i.e. what a 5th level wizard can cast. I know it's a little bit weird if you're not used to D&D. But I guess in a sense, because my psi limit is actually 5 in here, and so that generally determines the strength of the power. But I will say that psi limit used at level 5 is ballpark about roughly the same as a spell a 5th level wizard can cast. And it is worth noting, again, see how it sort of like flattens out. You get to 5, then there's a couple levels of 6, and then 7, and it stays there. And one of the reasons I said that we sort of hit my power level cap before at 5 is because my lethal strike ability, which is what I was using to do a lot of damage with a stab, actually itself had a psi limit of 5. You can never put more than 5 points in there. So at level 5, I was doing really, like, the jump from 4 to 5 was massive because I was almost doubling the amount of damage I could do, but that was going to be as much damage as that ability was ever going to do. So it's a little bit deceptive to try to gauge power levels there. As you go forward, it is a little weird here that it looks like you sort of flatline how many psi points you have in total, but the psionic mastery ability that you get here, actually each one of these uses gives you an extra 9 psi points effectively. So you do get more psi points just through this really weird mechanic that I'm willing to bet is not going to make it into the final version because it's very odd and very unintuitive. I don't know why they wouldn't just give you just plus 9 psi points in each one of those levels where you get that. It seems very, very bizarre to me. But those are going to be the basic specs for our character at this point. So we can look at the ability. That probably hasn't changed. So the Psionics ability over here, Psi Talent, Psi Discipline, Psi Points, we'll look at those momentarily. Psionic Focus, you can focus on the sort of a passive ability of a discipline. You can have one going at any given time. Later on you can have, or you can't have more than one focus. Later on we will be able to concentrate on more than one thing. But we've got that, and we've got our Psi ability modifiers, which I believe are exactly the same as before. The big thing is that as a Scion, you use your Intelligence modifier to determine your save DC. It is also important that you've got this discipline attack modifier where you can attack using your int modifier. And that is the one time I was saying that it might be tempting a little bit to move points out of my dex and over to my int instead, because there is one ability that's going to be kind of tempting to pick up, and it's going to be using my discipline attack modifier, i.e. my intelligence to attack as opposed to my dexterity, so we'll see how it is. So right, Mystic Order is the big thing we got to choose from. So in the version I was looking for before, there were just 2 options. There was the Order of the Awakened, which had a lot of the sort of like, ooh, I'm psychic and I do all that kind of stuff. And that's actually what Tao belonged to. Even though she didn't really go with that vibe, there are 2 major reasons I was going with that in the previous version. One is it did offer a lot of bonus skill stuff. In particular, it let me take expertise in one skill, effectively the same as what a rogue does, where you get double your proficiency bonus, and I applied that to stealth, so I had a very good stealth skill. And so, even though, yeah, the description of Order of the Awakened sounded more like, ooh, I'm a psychic, I used it as I'm a skill monkey. I'm that sort of utility, sort of skill type character. It made me very roguish by going that way, and that's how I sort of made the whole theme of this character work by going there. The other option that was there was the Order of the Immortal, which is more, if you played 3rd Ed, was more like a Psionic Warrior kind of thing, you know, sort of tough, tanky, I smash things. Most of the disciplines I used were part of the Order of the Immortal, which is fine. You can mix and match all you want. So most of the actual disciplines I used day to day were from the Order of the Immortal because there was a lot of offensive sort of melee things, as opposed to the I like the mind control ability from the Order of the Awakened. But there were a couple other things that I used. I like the ability to like use an object and like sense that object and get sort of a psychic reading off of that, and that was very cool. We may or may not lose that in this rebuild, we'll see. But as you can see, there's lots of other options now. So there's the Order of the Avatar, then the Awakened, then the Immortal, then the Order of the Nomad. So the Avatar one could have a very bardic feel, but it's a lot of like buffs and auras and a little bit of like influence, like a lot of sort of charisma, sort of like I influence people to do things level of mind control, as opposed to Order of the Awakened is more like I control your brain or I melt your brain kind of thing. Order of the Immortal is much tankier than the first version. It's actually got some sick ability. Order of the Nomad has a lot of mobility options, teleports, that sort of thing. Order of the Soul Knife has the ability to create an energy blade in your hand, and very much like the Soul Knife or Soul Blade or whatever of 3rd Ed, it is kind of poop, I would probably say. It probably depends very much on what kind of campaign you are personally playing in. But the Soul Knife, while he does have the ability to create magic weapons later on that like count as, you know, +1 or +2 or +3, it doesn't seem very sort of cost efficient to do it. And if there's any hope that you can find a magic item, you're much better off just using like a magic dagger. Now, I have a +1 dagger, and so there's very little incentive in my mind to use this as is. Then there's the Order of the Wujen. Wujen is sort of it's sort of a wizardy kind of very elementally associated kind of class is the vibe there, but you're going to feel like a lot more of a spellcaster, which again is not the tone I want with Tao, but if we did go that way, there are spells you can take that give you an interesting, that could totally work in the theme. So I got to choose one of this Mystic Orders, and it's one of the things we're going to look at. Mystical Recovery, so this is one of the ones they changed slightly in this version. I'm not convinced it's quite as strong. One of the things you're going to see in this new version is that almost everything the Scions do require bonus action, and that's one of the things that I feel is really, really, really dumb. On your turn, in 5th edition, you get to do a move, then you can take a regular action. So you get a move and an action every round. An action is normally an attack, although you can use your action to move more. And you also get a bonus action. You only get one. You can't like turn one into another or anything like that. So because you only get one bonus action every round, what you can do after I use a discipline, I can take a bonus action to regain hit points equal to the number of side points I spent, which is an interesting regeneration thing. But as you'll see, a shocking number of the Psionic Discipline moves that I'm going to do are a bonus action in of themselves, which means this does not stack. They definitely went with a certain vibe with this 3rd version of the Mystic. It's very heavy on bonus actions, very heavy on concentration effects, and I think too heavy, and I think I'm hoping that's something to dial back, because there's all these like non-synergistic sort of effects that happen as a result of this, like this Mystical Recovery. It's great if it works, but I don't know if I'll ever end up using it. One of the things with bonus action that's worth noting is when you take, one of the things with Tao is she was using 2 daggers. She would tend to attack, and then she would use her bonus action to do an attack with her offhand item. Because now almost all of her psionic abilities will use a bonus action, she doesn't get to do the offhand attack anymore. And the basic class by itself, as far as I can tell, never gets an additional attack. Certain classes in 5th edition D&D will get a bonus attack at like 5th or 6th level or something like that, without needing a bonus action. And as far as I can tell, Tao will not have that. But I really want the theme, the vibe of her going around with double daggers. And so it's sort of like worrisome, because like, what abilities, unless I'm doing a lot of kind of pre-battle buff effects, she might not really get a chance to do that. Plus, the amount of damage you really do with daggers and an offhand attack. Like an offhand attack, one of the big things is you don't get to add your ability damage. Normally with a dagger attack, you would do 1d4 plus your dexterity modifier. So I'd be adding +5 damage for my dex, for example. It's still not very much damage, but it's acceptable damage. The offhand only does a d4. You don't get to add anything to it, and I mean, unless it's a magic item. And so it was never contributing a lot. The big thing was that it gave me a second attack every turn to try to trigger my lethal strike, which would add in substantial extra damage. But that's not going to be an option anymore, because the new lethal strike, I don't even remember if that's what it's called, is in itself a bonus action. Which means if I take my offhand attack to hit, and I hit, I can't use it to trigger my special ability. So that's kind of frustrating. So effectively, I can no longer do two-handed attacks with this class and still get the feel that I'm looking for. However, what I can do instead, I thought, like, what am I going to do with my offhand? I mean, I suppose I could wield a shield potentially, but that's not the look I want. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to wield, like, my offhand dagger is going to be used as a parrying weapon, a classic sort of main gauche. Main gauche was specifically a parrying dagger that was used in fencing, and has made appearances under that name in previous versions of D&D. So Tao is going to be using a shield, for all intents and purposes in terms of gameplay. She's going to be wielding a shield, except my shield is going to look like a dagger so that I still look cool and badass, which is fine. One of the nice things that's always been encouraged in D&D and is explicitly spelled out in 4th ed as well as 5th ed is reflavor things as you can. As long, the mechanics stay the same, but reflavor them so that they feel better for your character. They fit things, If something should be doing, a different type of elemental damage or this or that, or should look differently, just go for it. Assuming your DM is cool with it, and Briarstone is cool with this. So that's going to be it. So Tao is still going to wield 2 daggers, but the second dagger is going to be used exclusively for parrying, which effectively means I'm going to be going around with an extra 2 points of AC, which is pretty good for keeping me alive, which was a little scary. I mean, Eric is really, really, really nice and tanky. Decent armor class, tons of temp HP, the ability to heal on the fly with his second wind from his fighter traits, things like that. Tao also finds herself in melee all the time. Does already have a really good AC thanks to a really kick-ass piece of armor that I got at some point. But now I'm going to go even more powerful in terms of armor class and hopefully be a little tankier. Plus there might be an ability that we take later on that should make it even harder for me to be hit. I'm going to go very sort of like Matrixy style, like, just keep dodging everything. We still get the telepathy ability over here, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the second version of this was actually tied to the Order of the Awakened, and now it's part of the base Scion. I might be wrong, but so I could speak telepathically with any creature I see within 120 feet, which is handy and nice to still have. So we're going to have that. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go over to the class tab over here. I'm going to clear this out. You see I started making notes. I considered to do the cleric thing, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and nuke that, and I'm going to go ahead and nuke this list of class features as well. Luckily, I have made a backup of this, so we're going to be okay. I need to change this back to 0, and I need to change this to 6. Note that there's no entry in here for a Mystic class, because it is just like beta testing content, but the Rogue has the same base type of hit points as my class, so we're going to do that. I can set this back to 32 psi limit as my max. Okay, so we're gonna have a Mystic Order at some point. I'll probably like put down that here. For some reason, this lags. Every time you hit enter, there's like incredible lag in Roll20 for some reason, and I don't know why. Everything else is fast, but when you hit enter here, and some of the tabs are quite slow. So Mystical Recovery is bonus action to heal HP equal to psi points spent, i.e. it's poop. Next we have telepathy, which used to be called mind meld. Communicate with someone within 120 feet is basically what it is, which is cool. Strength of mind, I guess I'll write it down because why not? Strength of mind. So mystics normally have proficiency in the wisdom saving throw, but you could swap out the wisdom saving throw to something else. It did come up once when I knew we were going to experience some poison. I switched out from wisdom to constitution to better defend that, but usually I don't bother. Swap wisdom proficiency to saving throw to something else. Done. You know, intelligence is in the list because that's the other thing the Scion is proficient in. I'm going to have a sip of whiskey. Alright, I'm not going to bother writing the rest down because we're not there yet, so that's okay. Alright, Mystic Order. So this is the single biggest decision to make, is what Mystic Order are we going to be a part of? Now, there is the Order of the Avatar, okay? Over here. The big thing with the Order of the Avatar, again, they tend to manipulate and amplify emotions of others. Again, that's not necessarily the theme I want, although one of the things with Tao right from the beginning is she did have a little bit of sort of Jedi mind tricks that she would use. And so Order of the Avatar thematically makes a little bit of sense there. But one of the big things, and again, I'm not so tied to the lore of whatever order I choose here, because I've never seen Tao as being part of an organized group of these Scions. She learned from her mentor, and that was it. It was basically very, very solo and a lot of like personal reflection and meditation on Alpenser and that sort of thing. So, you know, the flavor text of these isn't necessarily the most critical, but it does have a little bit of that Jedi mind trick kind of vibe. The big thing, first of all, each one of these orders will give you 2 disciplines, 2 bonus disciplines, but they must be from your particular discipline. That's why I wrote 3 plus 2. They're all the same for that. The big thing with the Order of the Avatar, actually we'll write it this way, is you get proficiency in medium armor. That part I don't necessarily care about. And shields. The thing is that the basic mystic only gets proficiency in light armor and simple weapons. By doing this, this gives me proficiency in shields so that I can get that plus 2 AC bonus from wielding the shield. Otherwise, if you're not proficient, I think you can still get the plus 2, but then you get disadvantage on like all the things, including like stealthy and dexy kind of things, which obviously Tao doesn't want. So the reason I was considering splashing a level of cleric is because cleric would give me shield proficiency, and if I went cleric with the discipline of like the God of Thievery, there would be a couple of like very sympathetic abilities in there, because you get change person or disguise self, and I think charm person as your two discipline spells. It's not discipline. What is it called? I don't know. You get those spells added to your spell list, as well as the class ability is to basically you can always have someone else have advantage to stealth checks, which is quite cool. You can't use it on yourself as far as I could tell, but you can give it to others, and that would kind of be interesting. So I debated that as a way to get the shield proficiency. You can also use a feat to get it, but it's like a really inefficient use of resources as far as I can tell. So the big draw with the Order of the Avatar is you get the shield proficiency, and some of the disciplines for Order of the Avatar will actually fit in quite well with the fact that I still kind of like the idea of Tau using Jedi mind tricks to break the weak willed, which is nice. So again, you get the shields at third level. All allies get +2 to initiative rolls. And who doesn't like that? It's nice to be a team member. It's nice to be able to contribute like that way. It feels really good. And then you get the Avatar of Healing, which is irrelevant. The Avatar of Healing is very bizarre because it's your allies gain hit points equal to their intelligence modifier whenever they regain hit points from a psionic discipline. Which, I guess if I use a psionic discipline to heal someone else, then this would kick in. Okay, I was thinking of it more like they all had to be mystics. But I guess as long as I was healing with psionic disciplines, they would gain bonus hit points based on my intelligence modifier. Makes psionic healing better. Which, I mean, I could take some sort of discipline to let me heal people. It doesn't feel like it's a good fit, but it doesn't not necessarily fit either. I kind of like the idea of, like, well, I'm just transferring chi from my body into theirs, you know, like, why not? So that's a possibility. So most likely that's going to be it just because of the shields, but let's take a look at the others, and they all have some very interesting things. So the Order of the Awakened, one of the big things is you get 2 extra skill proficiencies, and I want skill proficiencies. That was one of the big draws of the Order of the Awakened in the version 2. I got extra skill proficiencies, and I could actually get also the expertise in something, which is not present anymore. This is the Psionic Investigation, which Tau did use once in our campaign so far, and I like it. The ability to read an item, an object, was a very, very, very cool. And I might still sort of lean towards the Order of the Awakened if it weren't for the problem of because the new version of the Mystic makes it basically impossible to do two weapon wielding and still be functional. I kind of need the shield thing for the reflavored shield, and I do wish that they sort of change things to be a little less bonus action dependent. I'll have to check the rules again. Maybe there's something in the player's handbook that lets you do 2 weapon attacks, an offhand attack without using a bonus action, but I don't believe that's the case. And there might be something else in here that lets me get a second attack per round that might work out, but we'll see. So you get to read that. The Order of the Awakened also gets a kind of neat ability of Psionic Surge here, where you get to burn your Psionic Focus until you rest. Psionic Focus is basically just a passive bonus that depends on which discipline you're focused on. You can burn that. You can still use all your abilities, but you can burn this basically once per rest to impose disadvantage on the saving throw, which is kind of a cool thing to get your spell through. But that's the Order of the Awakened over there. Order of the Immortal, as I said, is really, really, really tanky over here. You get +1 hit points per level, which is nice. You can also get decent AC without armor. AC is equal to 10 plus your dex plus your con. Normally it's equal to 10 plus your dex, or more accurately, whatever your armor value is plus your dex. So here, your constitution modifier would take the place of worn armor, which is kind of a neat thing for flavor text. Doesn't necessarily, probably won't give you any more armor than you could from wearing actual armor. Although, yeah, maybe. Especially if you've got a high dex and you don't want to take penalties and be captain. Anyway, Psionic Resilience over here is probably the single most strong ability I've seen in this entire book. It's crazy. At the start of each of your turns, you gain temp HP equal to your intelligence modifier. So the Immortal, the Order of the Immortal, have a lot of MAD, multiple attribute disorder is what it's referred to. Because obviously you're going to want dex, obviously you're going to want con, but obviously you're going to want int, partially for this, but also it's like the most important trait for the Psionic, for the Mystic here. But this is crazy. So let's say, like, I have a intelligence of 16, so I have a +3 intelligence modifier. So at the start of every round, I would just get a shield around me worth 3 hit points. I mean, it doesn't stack with other temp HP, but I would always have that extra buffer of 3 HP every single round, which is pretty sick and very tanky. And the Surge of Health is quite cool. Again, you can burn your Psionic Focus, so basically once per rest, you can take half damage from an attack, which is pretty cool. Order of the Nomad, again, a lot of transportation effects like that, which I kind of like the idea of like more speed and all those things. The Breadth of Knowledge is very cool. Every time you do a long rest, so once a day basically, you get to choose to be proficient with two things, two tools, two skills, or a combination of those. And every day you get to tune that, which is really, really quite interesting. I don't know how often you need to change them around, but it is nice to just be more proficient in more things, so something to consider. This in particular is extraordinarily strong ability. Basically, so once per rest, you can, as a reaction, when you get hit, you can teleport to a square that you were in at the start of your last turn. So you want to make sure you're always moving at least one square every turn to use this. Presumably, it doesn't say that it doesn't work if you didn't move. So presumably it can just teleport you in place. But the important thing is it automatically makes an attack miss, which is incredibly powerful. It's only once per rest, but once per rest when something is supposed to hit you, like when you're hit by an attack. So it's not even like you have to guess if it's going to hit you or not. It's when the DM says, okay, that hits you, you say, but I react, and instead I do a teleport, bloop, and now it missed. Really strong. Only once per rest, but man, oh man, is that ever cool. And Superior Teleportation is whenever you teleport, you can move an extra 10 feet. With it, which is, so all your teleportation effects are a little better, because these teleportations are relatively short. There's a couple that go up to a mile, but they're slow, kind of out of combat kind of things, and a lot of the in-combat ones are relatively short, so the extra 10 feet is pretty meaningful. And you notice I'm not paying attention to any of the 14th level stuff, because that's not going to be relevant for a long time. And then you get to the Order of Soul Knife. So the Order of Soul Knife might have been tempting if they had shield proficiency, but they don't. They do get all martial weapons, so you can use longswords and stuff, and that's cool. The big thing, of course, is the ability to manifest a blade of psionic energy. So you just summon your own weapon that projects from both your fists. Great. And you can't hold anything in your hands while manifesting those blades. And again, you have to remember it takes a bonus action to attack with your offhand. So, yeah, all right. So it's a bonus action to summon, so you still in the first round can only attack with one. They deal 1d8 damage, so they do longsword damage as opposed to dagger damage, which is nice. And you can, as a bonus action, use the blades to parry, gaining you +2 AC until the start of your next turn, or until you are incapacitated. So you can spend a bonus action to make it like you're using a shield. But you get to choose. You can turn it on and off. That's quite cool. And the thing is, if you did go and grab you could go and grab the feat. There is a feat that you can grab for 2-weapon attack. So if we look at the feats, if I can bring up the reference, there is 2-weapon fighting as a feat that you can grab. What is it called? Is it called ambidextrous? Dual wielder. So the dual wielder does give you +1 to AC when you're wielding a separate melee weapon in each hand, which is quite good. It lets you draw both instantly instead of using an extra bonus action to draw the second one. It lets you use a heavy item on the back, but it doesn't help take it doesn't resolve the problem that it takes a bonus action to use the offhand attack. And that's the big limiter. It feels like the people who wrote this book forgot that that's kind of an important thing. So, as a bonus action, you can basically have a shield in your hand, but most of your abilities are bonus actions as well, as we'll see down below. So that's why I'm not sold on a soul knife. You do get the ability to make your soul knives magical, starting as soon as you can spend 2 psi points, which is quite early on, but it's only for 10 minutes, and it counts as magic, and again, you could just have a magic weapon. It is funny that they skipped like +3. Like I would have gone like 2, 4, 6, because you spend a couple levels. I don't know what it is, and have a +3 in there. It's a little bit odd. I mean, you can stack enough of these modifiers in here that all of a sudden your 2-weapon attack could start to do a little bit more. When you do kill a creature, you do get some of your psi points back, which is something. But I mean, the odds of making sure you kill the creature, I'm really not impressed by the Soul Knife class at all. Then you get to the Order of the Wujen, which is probably the single most powerful one because it turns you halfway into a wizard, basically. So, again, you get the extra 2 disciplines, great. You get 2 extra proficiencies, great. You get the ability to spend a psi point to ignore damage resistance to an element, so you can fireball a fire elemental and do full damage. So That's cool. And then at level 6, you learn 3 wizard spells. They can be from 1st to 3rd level. So you could learn 3 3rd level spells. You could learn Fireball and Fly and, I don't know, something else, right? So as your Scion, this is why, like, it's important to remember some of the baseline performance. When we're going to be looking at the damage of the various abilities, we have to compare everything to the fact of, I could be casting Fireball right now. And not even comparing to a wizard, because it's like, oh, well, yeah, but you're a different class from the wizard. No, I mean, as a Scion, I could cast a Fireball right now. So whatever the combat option that is available in here, it's got to compare at least as good as a fucking Fireball. Because the way it works is here. So as a bonus action, but that's a little deceptive. So as a bonus action, I can spend psi points to create a spell slot. And then the spell slots stick around until you go to sleep. And to use the spell slot is just a normal action. So effectively, you can just cast a spell as a normal action. If you really weren't prepared ahead of time, then you have to go bonus action, normal action. But you still get to do it in one round. It means you can't also do another bonus action or something like that. Although, it does mean in this situation, you could use your action to cast a goddamn Fireball, plus use your bonus action, if you've done this prepared ahead of time, to use your bonus action to cast one of your proper Psionic abilities as well, and really double up on the power. So you spend psi points to prep the spell slot as a bonus action, and again, it could be prepped ahead of time, that's perfectly fine, and then you go to town. So you know 3 spells, but there's no reason that you couldn't, like at my level, I've got 32 psi points, there's no reason I couldn't just Fireball 6 times, because I've got enough points for that, and then Magic Missile once. Of course, you could also use a 3rd level slot to cast a 1st level spell that you know as a higher level, so you'd Fireball, or you'd Magic Missile and do more missile damage. So, Wugen, pretty good. Plus, again, ignoring the elemental resistance. So now you're Fireballing Fire Elementals and doing full damage, and that's kind of cool. So the Wugen's very tempting. The downside of the Wugen is, well, first of all, it may not fit thematically with what I'm going for Tau. Also, but it does give me extra skill proficiencies. Now, perception is very relevant to what I'm trying to do. Insight is very relevant to what I'm trying to do. So, these are not lost. I mean, they're not the roguish ones, but it doesn't mean I can't take the roguish proficiencies from something else. You've got stuff from your background and stuff like that that's going to be okay. I can get my proficiency in stealth, which is really what I'm talking about here. And then, more things in deception or whatever. And then I still have all the skills that I'm looking for. So, there's that. Then we look at the actual disciplines. And so there's a lot to look at here. You can see that they're disciplines by order. And again, you effectively get 5 disciplines to choose from, but 2 of them have to be from your order. But other than that, it doesn't really matter. So if I did go Avatar, so Wugen, goddamned fireballs. Very tempting. But also, fly spell, spider climb, invisibility. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's actually super duper relevant to the sort of stuff that Tau would like to do that I could power through Wugen as opposed to just doing goddamn fireballs. So yeah, so we've got these, so we're going to have to look at those. So we're going to try to go through these. I realize it's going to be a bit of a longer video, but we're going to try to figure stuff out. Adaptive Body is in Mortal Discipline, but of course I can take it as anything. It just wouldn't count as one of my bonus ones. I love the Psionic Focus. While focused on discipline, you don't need to eat, breathe, or sleep. It's fucking cool. Elemental Adaptation is just ignoring extreme cold or fire, but not damage. Heat or cold, I should say. This is quite nice. It's a reaction, so not a bonus action. It's something you do between turns to give you resistance to a damage type. It does cost 3 psi points and only lasts for that one turn. But, you get fireballed or something breathes acid on you or something like that. So you spend 3 psi points to take half damage from it. That can be pretty powerful. Energy Adaptation here. You can use it on yourself. You touch one creature, of course, you can touch yourself. And gain resistance for 1 hour. However, it is concentration, and if you take damage, it can break concentration effects. You can also only have 1 concentration effect going on at any given time. And you're going to see there's going to be a lot of things in here that have concentration abilities. And yeah, that'll be a problem because you can't necessarily stack them. And the fact that it breaks if you take damage can be very tricky. It's not as good as just a spell that you cast over here. So again, with 5 psi points, 5 psi points is the same as casting a 3rd level spell. It's a goddamn fireball. It's a goddamn fly spell. Some of those things do take... I don't know if fly takes concentration or not. I'm going to just go look. I feel like most wizard spells, they did add that in, the concentration effect, to a lot of buffs. It makes it impossible to stack buffs, and it's very good for balance. Yeah, fly would take concentration as well. So I think most duration things you are going to see with concentration, and I think it's probably okay as a balance thing. But, you know, is that good? This also represents, what, like a 5d10 stab attack from my lethal strike kind of thing. Is energy adaptation for one creature worth it? I don't know. The immunity is quite cool, though. You know, 2 points higher. So you can only start using that. I think I get the 7 psi limit at level 8 or 9. Something like that. At level 8 or 9, I can use the 7 psi limit over here. Probably 9, because it's probably like 4th level spells. And then it's an hour of immunity to something. And immunity is a hell of a lot different than resistance. It feels pretty badass. Got Aura Sight over here, which is part of Awaken. You can get advantage on insight checks. It's not bad, actually. You can really do a lot. The Assess Foe gives you information on their immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, and hit points. It's actually a really powerful combat thing. Read mood, view auras, perceive the unseen. There's a lot of good stuff. I mean, this is 1 minute of being able to see invisible or hidden creatures and everything like that. It's True Sight, basically. And that's pretty good. I'm not going to say that it's not, but I don't think that's the vibe I want to go for. I mean, there's something cool about having Tau being able to read people, but I don't think that's what it is. She's interested, I think, a little bit more in influencing people than reading them. Bestial form. Okay, this is really badass. Really bad. Not what we're going to go for with Tai, but really badass. So, advantage on wisdom animal handling checks. Who cares? Bestial claws. You make claws on your hand. It's a single hit, and it's a blank D10 attack. So, however many psi points you spend, it's on that attack. Now, it's only on hit, so this has changed to do that. It is worth noting, this is very, very, very important to compare this to some of the other stuff. This does not take a bonus action. Very important to note that this does not take a bonus action, as written. So, it's free to do this, and then you make a melee attack. So, this just, I mean, you still have to take an attack. You have to still take an action to do your attack, okay? But it's not a bonus action to trigger the Bestial Claws, which is going to be important to compare to something else. And then you have the Bestial Transformation, which is insane. Bonus action, then for 1 hour you transform something and you gain shit. Like, it's a list over here. There's different costs. Amphibious, so you can breathe under water. Climbing, flight, there you go. 1 hour flight, 5 psi points. It's not even concentration, this one here. You sprout wings, which I don't want, but shit, that's cool. And the claws, like, what a great discipline. If Tau was formed differently, I'm actually playing a character in 3.5 ed right now that's a totemist, basically, and that's totally what he would be. That's exactly what he is. He's all about, like, I have claws, and I kill people, and I, like, take on animal characteristics. So it's now not a Tau thing, but I'm going to say it's really good. Brute Force over here, advantage on athletics check. Okay, Brute Strike over here. So we'll compare over here how some of these feel a little bit odd. So this is a bonus action, and then you get a bonus to your next damage roll against the target you hit with melee attacks during the current turn. Only lasts 1 turn, so it's the same amount of psi as Bestial Claws. It does eat your bonus action, and the next time you hit with a melee attack this turn, it does an extra d6. So this does a d10, this does a d6. The thing that does a d6 also eats your bonus action. This one does not. Now, the difference is that Brute Strike would also add your weapon damage. So if you're hitting with a longsword, so you're still doing your d8. And I guess this one doesn't specify that you would add your strength modifier on hit. I mean, it's a melee weapon attack, so... I mean, does it stack or not? It's a melee weapon attack. But presumably it's the claws. So I'm going to assume... You have to use your actual weapon because you're hitting with the claws. I would have hoped that you could add your strength. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. We probably need a DM ruling on that because it's not very clear. Brute Strike, you definitely would. You would still hit for, like, I don't know, your longsword damage plus your strength, and then add blank d6. But blank d6 is not as good as blank d10 and a bonus action. And overall, this discipline seems a lot cooler. There's more stuff going on in Brute Force, but it's a little weird, right? You do get the knockback ability, which is totally free. It's when you hit, so you don't pre-use it, right? The Brute Strike and the Bestial Claws, you pre-use it. Here, it's when you hit, you can trigger this. And if you do, then they have to make a strength saving throw or be knocked back 10 feet per point. And if it hits an object, it can take an extra d6 damage. So it is an interesting comparison in that one. This one is also blank d6 damage. but doesn't take a bonus action, and you only use this if you hit. On the other hand, they get a saving throw. Mighty Leap, you get to jump far. Yeah, okay, fine. Movement abilities are always cool and fine. Here you get a bonus to strength checks, so you can force open doors better or grapple better or something like that. So this is a bonus action, but yeah, whatever, I don't know. All right, Celerity. This has been changed fairly dramatically from the previous version. Celerity used to have like bonus movement. I think it was +5 movement, but also you got advantage on initiative rolls, which is probably too strong, I'll admit. So here you do get to move faster while you're focused on celerity. As a bonus action, there's that word again, you can increase your movement speed by 10 feet per psi points and have climbing or swimming. Sorry, no, not this one. No. This is just bonus action. Spend a fireball worth of power points to move an extra 50 feet for one turn. What? No. What? No. It's crazy. As a bonus action, take the dodge action. So it's like, if it was just 2 psi points, so dodge action gives people disadvantage to attack you. It's quite nice, but again, it costs your bonus action, which is going to be really relevant as we look at more attacks later on. Blur of motion. As an action, you cause yourself to become invisible during any of your movement during the current turn. So you can't attack and do this, although presumably you could still take a bonus action if something came up, but you get to be invisible for a turn. And that's cool as a way to escape. You know, that one's fine. I'm okay with that. Surge of speed, 2 psi points, bonus action. You gain 2 benefits until the end of the turn. You don't provoke attacks of opportunity, and you have a climb speed equal to walking speed. I like this a lot. It used to be spend 2 to get bonus movement and not provoke attacks of opportunity. This doesn't get the bonus movement. It used to do like just like the double action. You get your other 30 feet of movement or whatever and not provoke. So you don't get to move as far, but the climbing is fucking cool. Will look awesome climbing up walls. No attacks of opportunity. This is good. Bonus action be damned. It's very cool. And then Surge of Action. As a bonus action, you can dash or make one weapon attack. If it's 5 psi points, it shouldn't take a bonus action. Because now, again, it's like, this is a way, finally, as a mystic, I can take a second weapon attack. Because up until now, I can only do one, unless I use my... So, I can take my bonus action. Think about this. If I'm dual wielding, admittedly, this doesn't work if you only have one weapon. But if I have 2 weapons, I can take a bonus action to attack. Or, I can spend 5 psi points and a bonus action to attack. And most of the things that would let my attacks hit for harder already take a bonus action, so I don't get to stack them. Like, it's kind of crap. A dash action just lets you double your move, right? It adds an extra 30 feet by default. Couldn't I just spend 3 psi points over here and do that? So, here's the thing. The previous version was a lot smaller, but it made more sense and was sort of more internally balanced. This version is dumb. So we're going to ignore that. Corrosive Metabolism is great if you want to like bleed acid. Resistance to acid and poison all the time, which is cool. Corrosive Touch. As an action, you touch someone and they do a dex saving throw or take blank d10 damage, save for half. That's a lot of damage. Just I touch you, you burn. You'll always take at least half. That's the thing. What's nice about this is the hack is it can't miss. On a miss, you do half damage. Like, compare this, right? Compare this one to the claws. This, you have to spend the points ahead of time. You attack, it does blank d10 damage. On a miss, it doesn't do any damage. This version, same amount of points, same damage. On a miss, they still take half. Okay? And I mean, not every discipline is supposed to be, like, balanced in terms of damage with each other, especially as they're different, you know, if they come from different types of disciplines, and depending on what else they're paired with. But this is, like, that's a weird kind of balance situation. And then, let's throw in more damage option. Venom Strike. Oh, okay. This one is a 30-foot range attack. So one creature within 30 feet, con save, they take blank d6 damage, and is poisoned until the end of your next turn. Save for half. Acid Spray. This is as a reaction. When you get hit, you spray acid. Each creature takes 2d6 acid damage. Well, that's pretty good. That's cheap. It's a reaction, so it's not using anything on your turn. A little bit of damage, but it's really free damage. Here's 5 psi points. This is a 60-foot line attack that does 66 damage. And you can increase the damage if you want. So that's pretty good in a 60-foot line. So now we're talking about AoEs. Now we're talking, I think a fireball is 76, right? It's 8d6. A fireball is 8d6. This is 66, but in a line, which is fine. And you can bump it up, so it's, sort of on par. Then this, 7 psi point is more powerful, so it's going to be more powerful, and that's fine. Okay, Crown of Despair. This is the first avatar discipline that we've seen, and one of the ones I might take as a freebie if I get Order of the Avatar. And this is quite cool. Advantage on intimidation checks. Sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. Crowned in Sorrow. As an action, one creature has to make a charisma saving throw. On a failed save, it takes 1d8 psychic damage, and that's fine. So it's less than 1d10, but very few things are resistant to psychic damage, so this is almost always going to be unresisted. And it can't take reactions. Now, reactions is not something that comes up very often. Attacks of opportunity are probably the most common reaction, and on a save, it still takes half damage. Like, that's really good. This is mostly I kill you with your brain. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with I kill you with my brain. Sort of you can't see this effect, but I'm sort of, anything that's sort of imposing my will into another creature, I'm okay with Tau, especially if it's not flashy. It's another way for her to sort of assassinate people. So that's all of a sudden a very, very, very cool ability. Very cool. Less damage, very rarely going to be resisted. That's okay. And has kind of an irrelevant little bonus over here. Call to action. Okay, see, I like these. This, first of all, I love the fact this is explicitly out of combat. You spend a minute having a conversation with the creature. Okay, so it's clearly out of combat. You spend a minute, and you try to seed it with overwhelming ennui. At the end of the minute, then you use the action, force them to make wisdom saving throw. And if it fails, it sits and is incapacitated until concentration ends, or 10 minutes. So concentration or 10 minutes, this creature does nothing. But if the target or any of its allies is attacked or take damage, it does end. So you can't use this to start a big fight or anything like that. But you can totally bypass a guard. And what I love about it is on a successful save, the creature is unaffected, has no inkling. A lot of these charm spells never really tell you what the deal is if they fail, if they succeed their save. And normally the assumption is if they succeed their save, they realize something happened. But here it's explicit. They don't realize. You're just talking to them all depressingly and they don't realize anything ever happened. It's cheap. Love this. Good flavor. Far from overpowered. Just really interesting. Fantastic. Vision of Despair. So this is 3 psi points. It's 60 feet. Charisma saving throw. 3d6 psychic damage. So in terms of damage, it's in line with Crowned in Sorrow. Except as you get higher level, Crowned in Sorrow will do more damage for one action. And actually, sorry, I forgot this is a d8 and this is only d6s. Okay, so a little lower on damage. But its speed is reduced to 0 until the end of its next turn, so it can't move. So it takes a little bit of damage and can't move. It's tactical, strategic, and again, sort of invisible, sort of I mess with your brain, and I like that. Dolorous Mind. Okay, again, so this is a 1 minute duration, 5 psi points. As an action, you choose one creature. It must succeed on a charisma saving throw, or it's incapacitated and has a speed of 0 until your concentration ends. So that means it is out. It does get to repeat its saving throw at the end of each of its turns, but it's worth noting that taking damage and things like that does not reset this. So I can use this to turn off one enemy while the rest of my party beats on it. In fact, I can beat on it too. Concentrating an effect doesn't mean you can't do other things. You can't do another effect that takes concentration. You can only have concentration on one thing, but I can attack, I can cast other spells, use other abilities. As long as they're not concentration abilities, I can do that. If I take damage, there's a chance it breaks the concentration. But I can take someone out of the fight. Like imagine we go into a boss fight and I just turn the boss off. Yeah, he gets an extra saving throw at the end of each of his turns. End of each of its turns. So even if it succeeds, it still at least missed that turn. Meanwhile, it's incapacitated, and I don't have the list of conditions. Actually, I do over here. Incapacitated. It can't take actions or reactions. That's it. Okay, so it's not defenseless. It's still going to have its AC, but it just can't take an action, and that's still pretty good. Crown of Disgust, another avatar discipline over here. While you're focused on this discipline, the 5-foot radius around you is difficult terrain for any enemy that isn't immune to being frightened. So people have a harder time moving around you. Yeah, I don't think I'd be focused on that, but it's interesting. Eye of Horror. You give someone the evil eye. Charisma saving throw. 1d6 psychic damage. Can't move closer to you until the end of its turn. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's not that much damage. I don't know if the can't move closer to you is particularly relevant to anything I care about. Wall of Repulsion. You create a wall. People don't want to pass through it. Cool. Vision of the Disgust. Lasts for 1 minute. Choose one creature. 5d6 psychic damage, and until your concentration end, it takes a d6 psychic damage per creature within 5 feet of it at the end of each turn. And there's no subsequent save, right? So you just keep near it, and it just keeps taking more and more and more damage. It's actually kind of cool. And then Wall of Horror, yeah, blah, blah, on a failed save, it takes damage. It's fine. Crown of Rage. Again, not something... I don't think I would use it, because it tends to taunt things, but it's kind of interesting. The Psychic Focus is incredibly powerful. Any enemy within 5 feet of you that make a melee attack roll against other creatures other than you do so with disadvantage. So, creatures near you will want to attack you. I mean, that's literally how the effect works. They just innately want to attack you. They have to force themselves not to attack you, but if they do, they'll take a disadvantage. So this turns you into, like, a taunt target. It's amazing. It's not what the Tau is necessarily looking for, but holy crap, that's good. Primal Fury. So, again, target someone. They take 1d6 psychic damage per point, and they have to use its reaction to move towards its nearest enemy. Yeah, all right. Frightening Word... Fighting Words, right. Again, you spend a minute talking to someone, and then you get them to fight someone else, which is kind of amazing. So you spend that minute out of combat. Very entertaining. Mindless Courage. Bonus action, choose one creature you see within 60 feet of you. Succeed in saving throw, or can't willingly move unless its movement brings closer to the nearest enemy you can see. Not necessarily relevant. Punishing Fury. Bonus action. I mean, it is nice. Some of these are nice as a bonus action because you can still attack. If you want, like, vanilla attacks, you can vanilla attack and use this. Target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw. But again, 5 psi points is the same as a fireball. Keep that in mind, right? All the time. Or until your concentration, any creature within 5 feet of it can use reaction to make a melee attack against it whenever the target makes a melee attack. Right, so you put this on someone, and then whenever they take a melee attack, someone who's adjacent to them can hit them for free. I mean, they still have to roll to hit, but that's what that is. It's actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good. Diminution. This is you get to shrink. You're like, you're the Atom, or you're Ant-Man, or something like that. You get to shrink yourself. I'm not going to look at that because I'm not particularly interested. Giant Growth, the opposite. Become bigger. Again, not Tau style. All right, Intellect Fortress. This is one of the things that had a couple of cool things in the previous version. It's still okay. Resistance psychic damage. That's pretty specific. There's not a lot of psychic damage unless you're going through certain types of adventures. This is kind of fun, though. Psychic Backlash. So this is a reaction, so it's not on your turn, which is great. So if someone is attacking... anyone, you impose disadvantage on an attack roll against you. Oh, sorry, against you if you can see the attacker, but it's not just melee. If the attack still hits you, the attacker takes 2d10 psychic damage. That's actually really good, and I'd probably use that, like, every round. Again, you only have one reaction between rounds, but every round I would make it that much harder for someone to hit me and do that. It drains 2 psi points every round, but it's probably worthwhile. Psychic Parry. So you can get an extra +1 bonus to saving throw for each psi point you spend, and you can use this after the die roll happens, which is kind of nice. Psychic Redoubt. Feel the protective energy. Choose any number of creatures within 30 feet of you until your concentration ends, or 10 minutes. Each target has resistance to psychic damage and advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. The saving throw advantage is really good. Keep in mind, if you take damage, you might lose your concentration. It's actually a pretty potent effect. The thing is, you have to remember, you're not getting this for an effect. You've got 5 disciplines to choose from. So discipline as a whole has to be pretty good. That being said, I'm going to put Intellect Fortress on the maybe list. And it's primarily for the Psychic Backlash, which is 2 PP reaction, give disadvantage to attack, 2d10 damage if they still hit. That's pretty cool. And then Psychic Redoubt would be a really powerful ability. 5 PP, give allies advantage on many saves is the real thing. It's not about the resistance to psychic damage, it's about that. So if someone's using a lot of mind control abilities, throwing down a Psychic Redoubt might be really helpful. Alright, Iron Jewel ability. This thing is really good. If you're focused on discipline, so again, you can only be focused on one discipline at a time, although it's only a bonus action to switch. So you can basically choose whatever you want, whenever you want. +1 to AC. Done. +1 to AC. Ironhide as a reaction, always good. Someone else's turn. When you're hit by an attack, gain a +1 bonus to AC for each side point you spend. Presumably, because otherwise it would be shitty, this bonus to AC could potentially turn this attack into a miss. This bonus lasts until the end of your next turn. Yeah, oh, there it is. This bonus applies against a triggering attack, because otherwise it would be terrible. But that's not bad, especially if you've got a pretty good sense as to what a creature's to hit bonus might be, which you can figure that out after a few die rolls. Then you can sort of like tune how much you spend very well. So you don't have to spend like, you know, oh, my side limit is 5. I mean, you know, I spend 5 every time. That gets very expensive. Just spending 1 or 2 when it's close to make it a miss. Very good. Very good. Steelhide, bonus action. This is maybe much better, in fact, I would say. I would say this is better than Ironhide. There's actually no doubt that it's way better than Ironhide. 2 side points. You gain resistance to... Oh, wait, this is a bonus action, not a reaction. That is different. So you have to do this on your turn. But for the whole next turn, you're going to take half damage from all, like, normal, non-magical, non-elemental attacks. Bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Resistance is half damage. That's pretty good. You have to use it preemptively. But again, if you combo it sort of iron durability with the that Crown of Rage or whatever, where people have to attack you, otherwise they get disadvantage, so they're going to attack you, and then use this, you turn into, like, a super tanky guy. It's amazing. And then our resistance, it's a 7 side point, so I'm not even going to bother looking at it at this time, because you can always swap. Okay, Mantle of Awe. Hey, it's another Awakening Disciplines. We can use that as one of our bonuses if we go Order of the Avatar. Bonus to Charisma checks. Like, all Charisma checks equal to half your Intelligence modifier, which right now, and presumably rounded down, so that would be +1 to Charisma checks. But that's not bad. And if I boosted my Intelligence to 18, which is tempting, I'm tempted to do that swap, then it's +2. +2 to all, like, Persuasion, Deception, etc. There's, you know, a couple of things like that. It's actually quite nice when you want to sort of, you're thinking of Jedi mind tricks. It's sort of a passive Jedi mind trick. And speaking of non-passive Jedi mind tricks, I love this. And this is very high up on my list of things to keep around. So when you're in a social thing as opposed to a fight, it's not all about fighting. First, you can focus on this to get bonuses to your Charisma checks. Then Charming Presence is good. This is something that has existed in a few different forms in the past. So you spend side points, and then you roll 2d8 per side points. And that's how many hit points worth of creatures you affect with your Charming Presence. It starts with the creature with the fewest hit points and works its way up. But you can do a crowd. Like, your average sort of, like, commoner is probably going to have 8 or 9 hit points, right? So you can easily get, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe on a good roll of these commoners, and they're charmed all of a sudden. That's not bad. You know, friendly acquaintance. They're not, like, fully mind control, but they think you're a friend. And that's pretty good. And you could potentially get a really powerful dude if he's alone. No, and there's no saving throw in this. That's what's important here. There's no saving throw either, which is kind of cool. Center of Attraction. It's an action. It lasts for 1 minute. Choose one creature. And they're distracted by you, so all other creatures are invisible to it until the concentration ends. Which could have combat applications, but has great non-combat applications, which I love. Absolutely love. It's only one thing, so you can't fool a slew of guards with this. But it's still quite cool. And we're going to ignore the 7-point power because I can't use that for like 3 levels. Mantle of Command, another Avatar discipline. So I'm gonna put in a note for Mantle of Awe because I kind of like it. Mantle of Command. So while focused on this, when you end your turn and didn't move, you can use your reaction to allow one ally you see to move half their speed. So instead of you moving, you move an ally up to half. In fact, all the abilities here are about giving your allies extra stuff, extra movement, etc., etc. It's very good, but not the sort of vibe that I want for Tau at all. In general, like in terms of character matching, it doesn't fit. And we've got such a small group, I really don't want to be like, and I don't want to be bossing people around in a sense, which could happen with this character. But it's really cool, because you use an action to give other people actions and different stuff like that. It's very interesting, but not what I'm looking for. Mantle of Courage, still an Avatar discipline, which is good. Saving throw versus being frightened, meh. This, as a bonus action, you can end a frightened condition, which is fine. Or a victory, bonus action. This one is really... Oh, right. Whenever you down an enemy, you and all your allies gain temp HP equal to double the side points spent on this. So right now, say I could spend 5. So every time we down an enemy, me and all of my allies would get 10 temp HP. They don't stack with each other. Keep that in mind. And if you're downing enemies, you're probably still winning. But it's kind of neat because you can, like, in a big fight, if there's like a lot of little goobers, then you can just keep regularly popping one goober every round to get your temp HP. We're going to see there's another effect later on that we're going to find that's even stronger than this. Okay, Pillar of Confidence. I don't get 6 psi points as my limit until next level. I think it's level 7. Yeah, it's level 7. So next level, I will have a 6-point limit. This is actually, as far as I can tell, the only power, at least that I've seen so far, that specifically is 6 psi points. So this one here, for 1 round, it's a concentration effect technically, so I can get hit out of it early, but it's not as much of a worry. So I take an action, but then you, and up to 5 creatures I can see, each gain 1 extra action to use on their individual turns. So I use an action to get an action right away, I guess. The action goes away if not used by the end of your next turn. The action can be used only to make 1 weapon attack or to take dash or disengage. So I'm still, like, instead of doing just an attack, I'm using this ability, spending 6 psi points. I still get to do an attack, but at the same time, all of my allies get to take an attack or move around some more as a bonus, which is quite cool. However, I'm only in a party of 3 total people, so this could affect up to 6 creatures. I'm only affecting a total of 3 creatures, so I'm not going to get quite as much bang for our buck. Well, I say that we do have a NPC ally right now, so it could be 4. But I mean, that's next level, so I'm not really looking at that. So I don't think Mantle of Courage is something I'm going to look at. Mantle of Fear, advantage on intimidation checks. It's the second one we've seen with that. I can incite fear in someone. Okay. Unsettling auras. I like anything that's an aura. Lasts an hour. It does take up your concentration slot, but it does last for an hour. And then, so you trigger it as bonus action, which is fine. And then any enemy within 60 feet of you must spend 1 extra foot of movement for every foot it moves towards you. So you're slightly harder to move towards. Meh. And if someone hits you, it cancels it. And you can't do another concentration effect. Meh. Incite Panic. So, I mean, it's not what I'm going to be looking for, so I'm just going to skip it. Mantle Fury's got something cool, if I recall. So, while you're focused on this, any ally who starts within 10 feet of you gets 5-foot bonus movement to their walking speed. Okay. You and any ally. So we're all moving a little faster, and that includes, like, walking over land, which is kind of cool. Incite Fury, I can choose up to 3 allies, including myself. Okay? So it's a bonus action, choose up to 3 allies, including myself. And until concentration ends, it lasts for a minute, each target can get an extra d4 when doing a damage roll for a melee weapon attack. That doesn't help with ranged, and one of our members is a ranged fighter, unfortunately. It's only an extra d4, but it's not bad. Takes up your concentration slot, but it's cheap. It's actually not a terrible first turn action in combat. If all 3 of my allies were doing melee stuff, I'd be very tempted to pick this up. Mindless Charge, so bonus action. And then each target can use its reaction to move up to its speed in a straight line. Not bad, actually. But it's only towards the enemy. Meh. Bonus action, Aura of Rage. Until your concentration ends, you and any creatures within 60 feet has advantage on melee attack rolls. Now that's the one. That's the one. Notice it's not just your allies. You and any creature within 60 feet has advantage on melee attack rolls. How cool is that? So you, your friends, and your enemies all have advantage on melee attack rolls. I love it. I love it so much. I don't think I could necessarily use it except in very weird situations, but man, is that ever cool, right? Overwhelming Fury. You flood rage into one creature. It's got to do a saving throw, or it can only make melee attacks until your concentration ends. So it's a way to screw up wizards. Okay, Mantle of Joy. This is, I think, one that I was thinking about. Now, while, tap into the joy within you, thematically doesn't necessarily fit with Tau, but you could reflavor it. First of all, advantage on persuasion checks. I like that. Jedi mind tricks, okay? Soothing Presence. As a bonus action, this is quite good. Choose up to 3 other creatures you can see within 60 feet of you. And I can see myself. I can count as one of those creatures. Each target gains 3 temp HP per psi points. So if I spent 5 psi points, we'd all gain 15 temp HP. It's a bonus action, means I can't use another bonus action, which means I'm gonna have to figure out what is not a bonus action so that I can pair this with something that's not a bonus action, other than just I stab with a dagger and do 1d4 plus 5 or something like that, which is fine, but not, at level 5, 1d4 plus 5 is no longer anything to write home about. So I'll have to figure out, like, maybe a psionic action I can do as a proper action. But that is huge! As it turns out, we've got a party of 3, so this is perfect because I can give my entire party a bunch of temp HP. It is worth noting that Eric in our party is actually pretty good at generating his own temp HP, although not as many as these. And he doesn't always... he mostly like starts every combat with a handful of temp HP, I think 7. And then if he downs a creature, he can get some temp HP. But that's about it. And otherwise, they'll burn off pretty quick. This is really good. I don't have to do this every round either. But my god, like, again, let's take a look. What are my actual hit points right now? My max HP is 45, so I'd be adding 33% to my max HP with this ability. And I could refresh it if we take damage. It's not as good as healing, because it's sort of preemptive, but good god, is it freaking amazing. Right? And the fact that that's so good, and it's an avatar discipline, makes it that much more appealing to go into the Aura avatar. So that's really nice. Then you get Comforting Aura. Each target can roll a d4 when making a saving throw and add them. Alright, so it's just like having the resistance cantrip, except instead of being one shot, it's just on every saving throw for a minute until concentration breaks. That's actually pretty good. It's only 2 side point to use. Again, bonus action to trigger. So again, as long as I've got another useful thing to do with my regular action, that ain't bad. You know, maybe I can use that claw attack. Maybe I'll flavor it differently, because again, I don't want to look like I'm using claws. I want to stab people with my dagger. But maybe I could reflavor it almost like the soul knife. Like, it's psionic dagger that I'm stabbing with, or maybe charging my dagger with psionic strength. That's why it's doing the damage. Actually, I kind of like that all of a sudden. That's kind of tempting, don't you think? And again, that wasn't a bonus action. That was just a regular action. In fact, the ability was free in a sense. You do a melee attack as part of it. So it's just as a melee attack, blank, and if you hit, do X d10 damage. That's pretty good. You do have to waste. You have to use a PP even if you PP. You have to use the power points or the psionic power points even if you miss. But that's not bad. So yeah, the D4 is quite nice. Aura of Jubilation, again, concentration, so you can't stack these things. Each creature within 60 feet of you that you can see suffers disadvantage on any checks using a perception and investigation skill. I don't know if that's relevant, but it's a possibility for something. I suppose you could use it to cancel... You can use it while you're stealthing? Make people all happy and giddy so they don't notice you stealthing past them? I guess that's a thing. Beacon! A Beacon of Recovery. Bonus action, you and up to 5 allies can immediately make saving throws against every effect they are suffering that allows a save at the start or end of their turn. There's not that many things that allows a save at the start and end of turn, so I'm not sure that's relevant. Still, Mantle of Joy, very relevant. I like the advantage, because it used to be, there was a lot of stuff that I had before that was giving me either proficiency in a bunch of skills, or was giving me expertise, so I get double proficiency bonus. But now there's a bunch of stuff that instead gives you advantage. It doesn't cover as many things, but it gives you advantage on certain checks like Persuasion, which is substantially more powerful. Advantage, you roll twice, take the best roll. So Mantle of Joy gives me huge Jedi Mind Trick stuff. Huge. So yeah, that's like really good. So that's a definite possibility. Okay, we get to our first Wu Zhen discipline here. Man, God, we've gone for over an hour. It's okay. I got whiskey. I hope you have whiskey too. Mastery of Air. First Wu Zhen discipline. Of course, we can take this not as one of our 2 freebies from our style, but as one of our 3 wild cards. While focused, you take no falling damage. Also, remember, it takes a bonus action to swap, so you can like fall off a cliff, switch to this, and not die. I like it, because bonus action is very fast. Very fast. Wind Step. Very cool. As part of your move, you can fly up to 20 feet per side point. You have to, like, you know, end on solid ground, more or less. But very cool flexibility. Even just 20 feet is often very cool. Is sufficient. It's part of your move. It's worth noting this is not a bonus action, which is excellent. It's just as part of your move. So presumably if you spent 1 point on this, you could walk 30 feet and then fly 20 feet. And it doesn't eat one of your bonus actions. Very potent. Windstream. So you line of air that's 30 feet long. Each creature in that area, saving throw or take 1d8 per psi, half damage. And they can get knocked down. All of a sudden, look at this. It's only 30 feet, so it's not a very long range. It's not a very long range, I will admit. But it is technically an AoE. So you could hit more than one creature. And it's a D8 save for half. It's bludgeoning. There's more of a chance that some things might be resistant to bludgeoning, but not really that much. So what a great attack over here. And again, it's always going to do at least half damage and might hit more than one creature. It's not fireball level, but it's pretty good. Also, what I like is that the saving throw doesn't go up with the psi points over here. So you could do a 1-point win stream if you're willing to spend your whole action. But again, that's an action. So we could do one of these bonus action thingies over here and use our action to win stream. We're spending a lot of psi points in our round, but getting some cool shit. Speaking of cool shit, this Cloak of Air. It's 3 psi points. It's concentration, maximum of 10 minutes. So again, if you get hit, there's a chance that you might lose concentration. The way it works is I believe it's a Constitution saving throw. It's DC 10 or half the damage that you took, whichever is highest. So if you take 20 or more damage, then the difficulty for the roll will be above 10, right? So if you take a 30 damage hit, it's going to be DC 15. That's not that hard. I only have a +2 to my con. Although what I could do, I don't remember. Is it the Awakened that lets you change your saving throw, or is that built into my class? Because then I might be tempted. I'm very tempted, actually, to move my proficiency from Wisdom to Constitution to help with those saving throws. I'm going to have to double check the rules. Let me put in a note. Check to see how concentration saves work. Consider moving my save bonus from Wiz to Con, if that helps, to help with all these concentration spells. Okay, but here's the real beauty. So it's a bonus action to set it up. So even if my concentration breaks, I can re-trigger it with the bonus action, although again, bonus actions are still a bit of a premium. Use seize control of the air around you to construct a protective veil. I would probably not theme it this way. I would probably theme it to like Matrix-style dodging instead. It's fine. Mechanically, it's exactly the same. Until your concentration ends, attack rolls against you have disadvantage. And when a creature you can see misses you with a melee attack, so all attack rolls against you have disadvantage, ranged or melee. But when someone misses you with a melee attack, I can use my reaction to force the creature to attack itself instead. It has to roll a new attack roll and try to hit itself instead. Again, if I do get hit, there's going to be, let's call it a 50-50 chance that the concentration will break. But it's going to be hard as fuck to hit me. It takes up my concentration slot. That is very important. I'm going to have to be very cognizant of what I'm concentrating on, or how many abilities I want to run that have concentration, because I can't run the two. But Cloak of Air is phenomenal. In fact, I'm gonna suggest that it might be broken. It's hard to tell, because there's a lot of things that you can do that add disadvantage, some of which take concentration, some don't. Some take resources, some don't. Some are long-term, some aren't. But combine the fact that I've got really good AC already from like some crazy elven armor that Briarstone, like that we found at some point, and that Briarstone ruled worked in a certain way. Plus, if I do wield the shield, I'm going to have very high AC for 5th edition. I might have AC as high as 23, which is wicked high for 5th ed. And then if everyone who tries to hit me has to roll like for disadvantage, they have to roll incredibly high twice to hit me, which is already a really good situation. Even if it was guaranteed, even if like it guaranteed that if someone did hit me, it broke the spell, it might still be worth it. Especially since I can cast it before combat starts. Very tempting. And then there's other cool shit. So Mastery of Air is like way up there. I kind of want Mastery of Air already. Because then you get the wind step, which is handy, and I think thematically works. It's sort of a bit of a Wu-Gen shit. There's all sorts of different ways to explain it, but I like the idea of like stepping on air is like, again, with Tao, a lot of her stuff shouldn't be super overt, but this is, I think, the right kind of overtness that it kind of works. Like, I may or may not use the wind stream. I might have to like theme it differently. It might be like a sonic burst more than, wind. I don't know. But wind form. So 10 minutes, fly speed of 60. This is exactly the same as the fly spell. 5 psi points is effectively the same as casting a 3rd level spell, which the fly spell is, the wizard spell called fly. The fly spell lasts 10 minutes and has concentration and has a flying speed of 60 feet. It's exactly the same as the fly spell, and who doesn't want to be able to fly? At the next level, I can take Misty Form. For 1 minute, become a Misty Cloud. I can't attack. I can only move. I can double move, but that's it. But I can't. I take less damage and I can squeeze through openings, and that's fun. We won't care about animate air because that happens later. Mastery of air, very cool. Again, I'd probably re-theme it to be more sort of matrixy, dodgy. I don't know, something. At least for that. I don't know about the others. We'll see. But damn cool. Instead of using daggers, if she was using like like the bladed fans, right? Like the fans, the hand fans, ooh, with the razor's edge on them. This was an assassin weapon, in the past somewhere. But also, didn't one of the Mortal Kombat creatures use that as well? Characters use that as well. I'm pretty sure. So imagine that, right? As your theme for your Wujen is like the fans that may or may not be daggers or not, but you could reskin daggers as these fans to excuse your mastery of air stuff. And all of a sudden that gets cool. All right, mastery of fire. Hey, resistance to fire damage. I'm about to enter into a giant fire temple of doom. Imagine I walk in there with resistance to fire all of a sudden. Pretty kick-ass. I also like the way that just combustion. Just pick a creature that you can see within 120 feet, which is huge. Light them on fire. So it's an action. It's worth noting it's an action, not a bonus action. It's a full action. But that's actually not so bad. It's weird where I'm like, oh, I'm happy it's not a bonus action. Because I can bonus action to trigger a billion different buffs or defenses and then take my action to combust. It is a D10 per psi point right away. Right away. Catches on fire, and then it takes another D6 fire damage each round until your concentration ends. I don't think the concentration effect is that meaningful. First of all, it's only a minute, and if you're concentrating on this, you can't concentrate on something else. I think it's most meaningful, actually, that if you cast combustion, the most meaningful part is that it would break any current concentration effects. So imagine I have my Cloak of Air running, I cast combustion, and even though I don't care about the duration, it breaks that, which seems a little odd. Like, this ability, to me, would be stronger if it didn't have the duration stuff. And by the way, you still take, obviously you take half damage on a save, no catch fire. So yeah, that's like, I don't know why they made this concentration effect. So it does do more. Wow, it does do more damage than the fireball. Because think about a fireball. Fireball does 8d6. So at 5 psi points, that would be 5d10. So a d6 does an average damage of 3.5. So that's 7 per 2. That's 14 per 4. So 28 damage is the average damage of a fireball. Okay? This would have an average of, so it's 5.5 per die. So it's 9 for 2, 18 for 4 dice, and then 23.5 for the 5th level version. And what did I say for the other one? 28. So it's worth noting. A fireball. So if we're comparing the 5 psi point version of this, which is exactly the same cost as casting a fireball, a fireball will average 28 points of damage instead of 23.5. A fireball is also a 20 radius AoE, 40 feet wide AoE. Now, sometimes you can't cast a fireball because you're gonna, hurt your teammates or whatever, and I guess that's a thing. But yeah, it just seems like distinctly weaker. And keep in mind, this 1d10 was exactly the same damage I was doing with my Pokey Pokey before. That's one of the arguments where it felt like it was a lot of damage. But what I was doing is I was doing less than fireball damage to a single target while I was in melee range. That's why my argument was always this is not an overpowered ability, because I'm doing less than fireball damage to one target while I'm in melee range. So it's like three cons. Less than fireball, melee, one target. The bonus was that in the previous way that this was written is it didn't cost an action, including a bonus action, to do it. So conceivably, if I happen to hit twice in melee, then I could do that twice as much, which would be more damage than a fireball in a single round, but at the cost of casting 2 fireballs. Because again, it's like I was casting 2 third level spells in one round. Don't get me wrong, it's great to be able to cast twice as many spells in one round, but it didn't happen that often. And remember, and there was the bonus that if I missed, I didn't spend any psi points. On the other hand, when a fireball misses, yes, you've always expended a spell slot, but it always does at least half damage as well, so there's more consistency there. So I always said, like, there's no way my ability was overpowered. It's not as good as a fireball. And I still maintain that. So a good example is here with combustion, which is ranged. This does as much damage as my other attack used to, but this is ranged, and it's still not as good as a fireball. So there you go. Rolling flame, you get to roll stuff. Oh, here we go. Detonation. So detonation is 5 psi points, which makes it exactly the same effective cost as a wizard spell, a 3rd level wizard spell. And it's a fireball, 120 foot range, 20 foot radius. Except it's only 76 damage. But it does knock prone. Okay, so it does slightly less damage than a fireball, but has an additional effect over here. So there's your fireball effect over here. Okay, right up there. Fire form, that's cool. As a bonus action, you become wreathed in flames until concentration ends. Any creature that ends its turn within 5 feet of you takes 3d6 fire damage. That's cool, that's fun, that's fine. Not that useful, but it's okay. Alright, Mastery of Force. There's some cool ass shit here. Advantage on strength checks, fine. Here's a push ability over here, so it does 1d8 per psi, save for half. And you can push people away, so, you know, off cliffs or whatever, that's fine. Here's a move ability here, which is kind of weird because this just moves an object. And if you land it on someone, it does damage, but that's about it. Inertial armor, this is basically mage armor over here. 8 hours gives you an AC that is 14 plus your dex. It's mage armor. Here's a wall you can put up. Here's a grasp. This is the ability to, like, do the Vader thing. You sort of pick someone up, and then while they're picked up, you can start doing bonus damage over here. So this is a normal action. You grapple them. So this does a ranged grapple on someone. Now, on their turn, they can try to break out of it. But you can counter that on their turn by spending more psi, but it gets really expensive. So for the cost of a fucking fireball, you can have like a +5 bonus to your opposed grapple checks. I don't know if that's the case. But while they're grappled, you can crush them. And as far as I can tell, you can use the grasp, start the grapple, and then spend points to do this as well. So you can do damage in the same turn that you start the grapple at the phenomenal cost of psi points. There's no save at this point. So if you succeed on the grasp, that's kind of interesting. It is interesting that you spend the 3 to take the risk. This might fail. If it doesn't fail, though, then you've grappled them, and then you can do this at that point with no saving throw to crush them some, and that's okay. Or you can move them. It's only 5 feet per psi, which is too bad. On the other hand, you can dangle them over a cliff or something like that, and that's very badass. Who doesn't like that? So it's cool, but not what I'm going to be going for. Mastery of Ice. Resistance to cold damage. Fling some ice spikes. So 1d8 cold damage per point, save for half. It reduces speed by half. It's fine, but, you know, nothing to write home about. Ice sheet on the right. I mean, I'm not going to be doing any of these, so we're going to skip over that. That's going to be fine. Okay, Mastery of Light and Darkness has got some cool ass shit in it. First of all, you can see through natural and magical darkness within 30 feet of you. And it's worth noting, Tau right now, using the version 2 of the Mystic here, has 30-foot dark vision. So this is also 30 foot, but it lets you see through magical darkness. So already that's better. And there's another ability down below that will give us the ability to have 60-foot infravision or dark vision, which is better, which is nice. The magical darkness really comes up because the other ability in Mastery of Light and Darkness is to drop a darkness ability. Within 60 feet, it's 10-foot radius, so 20 feet wide, or per psi point. So 1 psi point, and it's a full action. It is a full action just to create some darkness. But you can create big darkness, and the big upshot is that if you have this discipline, you can be immune to your own darkness, which is cool. You can also do light over here, which is fine. You can summon shadow beasts. You can also do this radiant beam over here to do some damage. The light and shadow effects really aren't Tau. From the assassin point of view, though, this is really cool. It's really cool. I'm not going to take it, but it's freaking cool badass. Mastery of Water gives you swimming speed. You can breathe underwater. That's pretty good. Desiccate. There you go. You target someone. They take 1d10 necrotic damage, or half as much on the successful save. So single target, 1d10. Again, it's less damage than a fireball. It's a single target. But it's safer. I mean, the fireball you can't use everywhere, so you're trading the fact that it's both less damage and it's not an AoE for the fact that you can use it more safely more often. Water grasp, water. There's a few other things. Bludgeoning damage, and you can move someone a little bit. Water breathing as a group over here is very cool. Sure, it's fine. That's not what I'm going for. Mastery of weather, resistance to lightning and thunder is cool. Cloud steps is very funky. It does last for 10 minutes. This is what I like about this. You make little clouds under your feet. Or you make a staircase, right? That's what it is. Yeah, you don't just get to like walk on air everywhere. You create one staircase. Yeah, it lasts for 10 minutes, but who cares? Lightning damage. I'm not going with any of this. None of this was thematically strong enough for what I was looking for. So it doesn't mean it's not good. It's just not what I want for Tau. Mastery of wood and earth gives you that +1 bonus to AC. Now here's what's interesting. Well, right, you have to be focused on it, right? So you can't stack with the other one. So +1 to AC. You can animate your weapon. And that's kind of cool. So it's a one-shot deal, right? It's an action. It activates your one-handed weapon. It flies. It only goes 30 feet. So this is a 30-foot ranged attack. A ranged attack with a 30-foot range. Use your discipline attack modifier. So you would be using your intellect to hit as opposed to your dex. If it hits, it does its normal damage plus an extra d10 per point. And then it returns to you. It's a lot of damage for a ranged attack. The question is... So a D10, it's on par with a lot of the other effects that we've seen do a D10, right? But these still does half damage on the successful save, whereas this on a miss does nothing. And it's only 30-foot range. I mean, it looks cool. I mean, again, it comes down to, all right, you're taking this discipline because maybe there's other things you want in it. It does give you this +1 bonus to AC if you're focused on it, which is cool. You can warp someone's weapon. You can warp someone's armor. Make a wall of wood. Sure. Armored form. It is a minute of bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing resistance, although every time you get hit, it has a chance of breaking the concentration. So you want this if you're going to get hit a lot, but you also don't want this if you're going to get hit a lot. So, yeah, this one seems like a weird discipline to me. Nomadic Arrow is one of first nomad disciplines over here, which mostly have to do with movement. But in this case, this is a good ability if you've got some range shit going on. Any attack roll you make for a ranged ignores disadvantage, which is cool. Speed Dart. So this is only if you imbue a ranged weapon. If you have a ranged weapon, you get to do this. This is the next attack you make with it that hits before the end of the current turn, deals an extra d10 per psi. So you have to use this first. Use your bonus action to charge this up. The next attack that hits. This would be really good if you can do more than one attack per round. But remember, it costs your bonus action. So you can't... There was an ability up above that gave you a bonus attack, but it cost you a bonus action to trigger. Plus, it was like 5 side points. So now all of a sudden you're spending like 10 side points in a turn to maybe, if you hit, do an extra d10. Maybe if you're hasted. If you're hasted, you get bonus attack, right? That might be a good combo there. Maybe that's something to investigate if you're a Wujen or something and cast haste. I don't know. Seeking Missile is quite good. If you miss with a ranged attack weapon, you can repeat the attack roll against the same target. So it's sort of giving you advantage, but not really. It's arguably maybe even better than advantage. I don't know. It's about the same. Because you use it when you miss. And it's only 2 side points. It's a reaction, not a bonus action. This is a really, 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 really strong ability. And in fact, it's combos well with Speed Dart, right? So you spend the points on Speed Dart to load your next attack with a bunch of bonus damage. If you miss, you can trigger Seeking Missile to get a second roll. That's actually, all of a sudden, you've got a bit of a combo. You know, within one thing. It doesn't cost that much. It's good. Faithful Archer, so it's a concentration ability. So you can use it ahead of time. It only lasts a minute, though, so you're not going to pre-combat it that much. You imbue a ranged weapon with limited sentience. I mean, I don't know why I'm reading this because I'm not a ranged fighter, so it's kind of irrelevant. But here you go. You can make an extra attack with the weapon at the start of each of your turn, which is really cool. Now, it does say at the start of your turn, hopefully you could still do a bonus action first. Now, all of a sudden, like, you just take this, and all of a sudden you're like, this is your Zen Archer that you've been looking for, man. Like, holy crap, you're a death machine. You're going to, like, bonus attack, reroll misses, do shit tons of damage on your hit. Ignore disadvantage. Really, really strong. Makes you wonder about some of the other things. Okay, Nomadic Chameleon's quite cool. Advantage on stealth. So much better than just an extra, you know... I had expertise on stealth, which was get me double my proficiency. So basically a +3 to my stealth rolls. This is so much better than a +3 on stealth rolls. So I think it's kind of a must-have. Oops. So that's while focused. Again, bonus action to swap between those, you know, out of combat or whatever, it's fine. Chameleon, spend 2 psi points as an action you can attempt to hide even if you fail to meet the requirements. So you can sort of kind of hide in plain sight. Step from sight. This I love. So bonus action, cloak yourself from sight. You can target 1 additional creature for every additional psi you spend on this ability. Each target turns invisible and remains so until your concentration ends or after you attack. So as a bonus action, not that it matters that much, but it does add extra flexibility. I just love the ability to, like, turn me and all of my friends, because I can spend up to 5 psi points right now. So it's me plus 2 others, so my entire party, we're invisible for a minute. That's pretty good. Now, notice that this one is not written correctly. Enduring invisibility. So, step from sight, I'm invisible for up to a minute. Like, concentration 1 minute, I and my friends are all invisible. Enduring invisibility is 7 psi points. Concentration 1 minute. You turn invisible and remain so until your concentration ends. I'm betting this should be an hour. This is the only thing that makes sense. This must be a typo. It must be for an hour. And even then, what's regular invisibility? Is it 10 minutes? Because invisibility is a level 2 spell. I just don't know what the duration is in 2nd ed, or 5th ed. Just looking it up here. Invisibility. So it's 2nd level spell. Concentration up to an hour. So really, what this should be, the only thing that makes sense for enduring invisibility would be if it cost 2 psi points, 1 hour. Concentration 1 hour. Because then it would be exactly the same cost as the regular wizard spell. And again, as is, it's strictly worse than this ability. Oh, wait. This is improved invis. It doesn't break if you attack or anything like that. Okay, so it's like improved invis. That's what it is. You know what? All of a sudden it makes a lot of sense. Because you can turn invis and still attack and start murderifying people, and it doesn't break invis unless your concentration ends. So if someone somehow still hits you despite being invis. Okay, never mind. That's fine then. Okay, it's totally reasonable. Yeah. So I'll probably take Nomadic Comedian. The big thing is I want to have this. I want to be able to stealth with advantage. It's going to save me so much trouble. Chameleon's fine. Probably not what I'm looking for. Step from sight has a lot of fun options, though. All right, Nomadic Mind. Whenever you focus on this, you choose 1 tool or skill. So this gives you a proficiency at will. So as a bonus action, you get to switch your focus. So as a bonus action, become proficient at whatever the hell you want. Done. Or learn to read 1 language. Done as a bonus action. What? That's crazy. And then you got a bunch of stuff that lets you gain proficiency with 3 more skills. 3 more skills. Boom. 10 minutes. Find a creature. That's good. Item lore. Study a thing and it identifies. So you got the ability to identify the creatures. Psychic speech. This is for 1 hour. Oh, this is tongues. You can speak anything for an hour. Wandering eye. This lets you look around with an eye sensor. Cool. Goes through solid objects. Cool. Excellent. Good stuff. Probably don't have room for it. Now, I don't know if we're taking Intellect Fortress. Okay, I don't need Psychic Backlash if I'm running Mastery of Air, because both of those would be ways to give disadvantages to attack. The difference is that Mastery of Air, it lasts for 10 minutes with concentration. I guess that's the thing. And that's fine, and a bonus action to reset it. Okay? So it does eat your bonus action to set it, but it might last an extended amount of time. 10 minutes is a fine duration. It might last a couple of combat encounters. It's really not bad. You can prep it ahead of time. Like, it's okay, but sometimes it might not come up. Mastery of Air did have a couple other cool things, like all the flight shit. Intellect Fortress gives you the ability to give disadvantage as a reaction. It's only 1 attack. That's the difference. Mastery of Air will protect you against multiple attacks. Psychic Backlash will only be 1 attack, because you only get 1 reaction. But you don't have to precast it, and it doesn't eat a bonus action, and it doesn't eat a concentration slot. Nomadic Step. So after you teleport on your turn, right, your walking speed increased by 10. Most of the teleport effects in here set your movement to 0, so you can't teleport and then walk. So just as sort of a balance thing. Unless you're specifically focused on this, then you can teleport and walk 10 feet, which is pretty cool. Although only once per turn. So here's a bunch of teleport effects, right? So here it's 20 feet per psi points, bonus action teleport. Cool. The nomadic anchor is kind of funky. So you place it somewhere, and then for over the next 8 hours, whenever you teleport, you can teleport to the anchor. Even if you can't see it, but it must be within range of the teleportation ability. Now, obviously that's not really good with this, but there's some of these that let you teleport up to a mile. So you can teleport up to this anchor. You might be able to put it, say, at the top, on the surface when you're going down to a dungeon. Gives you a quick escape, but only for you. I like defensive step. When you're hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to get +4 bonus to AC. Then you can also do the teleport. It's also worth noting that if you're an actual nomad, you can also, once per rest, teleport and force an attack to miss in the first place. So there's all kinds of different ways to like get missed, and that's cool. I love teleport effects. They're very good. I don't know if I want to be a sort of blinky teleporty person, but it sort of works. There and back again is interesting. Bonus action, teleport up to 20 feet. Then move up to half your turn. Then at the end of your turn, it teleports you back to where you started. So you can bonus action to get somewhere, attack, and then blink back. But again, there's no reason for me to attack if I've used my bonus action for here, because I won't be able to add extra damage to it. Transposition lets you swap places. Baleful Transposition, you swap places with someone who doesn't want to, but they get a saving throw. And then this is the thing that lets you teleport up to a mile over here with a group of people. And then the gate is a stronger version of that. Precognition is super fun. Super fun. While focused on this, you have advantage initiative rolls. So that's what Celerity used to do. Now it's over here. Yet advantage on initiative rolls is massive. Precognitive Hunch. Bonus action, concentration 1 minute. Cheap. But while it's running, whenever you make an attack roll, a saving throw, and ability check, you roll a d4 and add it to the total. So basically, you get an extra d4 added to all your d20s for a minute. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Especially combined with the precognition. Like, I would be running, this would be my default psychic focus that when I'm just walking around, because a fight breaks out and you're like, ah, no, I go fast. So, and then in combat, I might switch to something else. All around sight. In response to an attack hitting you, use your reaction to impose a disadvantage in the attack roll. So it's like Psychic Backlash. It's more expensive, and it doesn't do the 2d10 damage when they hit. But that's not, see again, it's okay if they're not always balanced with each other as long as things make sense. So this is worse than Psychic Backlash in every way. But it's in a different discipline and it gives you more options. Maybe there's more stuff you want here. I like Psychic Focus. All around sight is fine. 3 PP is okay. You know, 3 psi is okay. Danger Sense. So this is an 8-hour concentration. So again, you can get hit out of it. And it takes up your concentration slot. So you're using this instead of Precognitive Hunch. I mean, obviously, if you're running this, you're not doing anything else with the concentration. But, lets you see a few seconds into the future. Until your concentration ends, you can't be surprised. Attack rolls against you can't gain advantage, which might not be that meaningful. And you get a +10 bonus to initiative. And keep in mind, you could run this with Psychic Focus. I don't know if it really matters to run both. It's potent, but again, the way to maintain this would mean never doing anything that takes concentration. And I don't know if that's feasible. I do like this. This one's awfully too expensive, and it's only going to come in at level 9. But it's when you roll initiative, use this to give you and all your friends +10 bonus to initiative. That's going to make you really popular in a group. Sonic Restoration is incredibly good, but I'm not going to get it because I don't see Tao as being a healer. Plus, we've already got Lasan in the group who's a healer. Obviously, I'm not going to steal some of that mojo, but it's actually really, really good ways to do healing. It's an excellent way to turn your character into healing class. Very, very good. All right, Sonic Weapon. This was the bread and butter of the original Tao. So in this version of Sonic Weapon, a few things are a bit different. Right, so if you're focused on this, you can turn the weapon damage into psychic and magical instead of normal damage type. which lets you avoid like creatures who are resistant to, say, piercing, for example. But until you get to level 6, which is moot because I'm level 6 now, you wouldn't be able to end your strength or dexterity modifier. The downside to this is you're focused on this instead of being focused on something else. And if you want to switch to this in combat, again, it takes one of your bonus actions to do that. So I don't think that's feasible. The previous version of this was if you focused on it, you would make your weapon magic and turn it into a +1 weapon, which is good because my offhand weapon wasn't magical, so I would use it to give it a bonus from time to time when I had a good opportunity. Still took a bonus action, but sometimes I could fit in. Ethereal weapon is fun. It is a bonus action, but it turns into just an energy weapon. Next attack you make before it, you instead of doing an attack roll, they do a dexterity saving throw. But it does normal damage. Well, they take half damage on a miss, but it does normal damage otherwise. It's actually a decent way to damage something that's incredibly heavily armored, that their AC is just too hard to beat. You can use this to bypass AC, but it eats your bonus action, which means you can't use Lethal Strike, right? And so this, to me, is the direct comparison from this version of the Mystic and the previous version. It mostly looks the same, except the gotcha is it's now a bonus action, and you use it before you attack. You use this to imbue your weapon, and the next time you hit, it deals this damage. So, first of all, you could use this. So, first of all, to use this, it uses your bonus action. So you can't do anything else that's a bonus action, and you might just miss. And unless you have some sort of mechanic that let you re-roll that, like I do have luck, so that's something. Compare this to the ranged Nomad, which basically had the same effect here, but the Nomad has an ability to re-roll a missed ranged attack. We don't have that here. So you could spend your fireball worth of damage. Keep in mind, 5 side points, right, which is what I can do right now. 5 side points is the same resources as fireball. And I could literally, if I was a Wujen, I could use those 5 side points to fireball. So I could spend a fireball, miss, and literally do nothing. No half damage, no nothing. I can't combat with Ethereal Weapon because they're both bonus actions. So now all of a sudden it's really kind of shit. I will point out that if you are playing a Paladin, the original Sonic Lethal Strike ability, at least in version 2 of the Mystic, which I played, was modeled after the Paladin ability. The Paladin has an ability to, on a hit, doesn't take a bonus action. When you hit, you can expend some of your spell slots to add bonus damage. And it was very much in line with this. It was slightly less damage, but on the other hand, the Paladin can wield heavy armor, use a shield, do lay on hands, and do other Paladin-y things, right? So it was the previous Sonic Lethal Strike ability was very similar to the Paladin. This version feels like poop. Why would I use this? Especially when we look at, say, Sonic Blast over here. No, not Sonic Blast. Not Psychic Blast, but Sonic Blast. Sonic Blast. Pick a creature you can see. Deal 1d8 psychic damage per psi. No save! Again, I've said the different disciplines don't have to be balanced with one another, but is it just me, or is the entire Sonic discipline class a big pile of shit? Here's Augmented Weapon. I could spend a fireball worth of resources to turn my weapon into +3 magic weapon. So it's +3 to hit, +3 to damage. For 10 minutes. Again, concentration, so it can get broken. And that's it. The reason I'm kind of mad is because the whole appeal with the original Tau was that I could use Sonic Weapon to make myself into a big damage-dealing badass using my brain. So again, compare the previous version worked a lot like the Paladin. You can also compare the Rogue, which doesn't get to do quite as much burst in a single attack, but gets to do it much, much more reliably. At level 5, the Rogue gets a 3d6 sneak attack. Sneak attack will fire almost every single round. It only fires once per round. You can't ever use it. And they could have worded things that way. You know, instead of using bonus actions all the time, they could have just said, you know, once per round, you can do this. That probably have been better. It's worth noting, the Paladin has no once per round. If you're a dual-wielding Paladin, you can go and hit twice and burn spell slots on each one to do a bunch of bonus damage. So the Rogue can basically do 3d6 once per round on the attacks. Very easy to trigger sneak attacks. The Sonic Weapon has just been... It's just poop right now. And very disappointing. Because it was cool, and now it's not cool. At all. Unless you're sure you're going to hit for some reason. It's fine early in the day when I still have all my luck feats, although not everyone's running luck feats. So it seems like there's a miss here, right? It's not ranged. It's less damage than the fireball. It's not AoE. There's a lot of other abilities in here that are less damage than a fireball and aren't AoE, but they tend to be ranged. And they do half damage on a miss. If this did half damage on the miss, it would be okay. I'd feel much better, but it doesn't. I don't think there's any reason to ever use this compared to everything else. And the problem is, Tao's supposed to be a stabby badass. And there's no way to be a stabby badass anymore. Very disappointing. So, Psychic Assault. First of all, when you're focused on this, you do +2 bonus to damage rolls with Psionic Talents that deal Psionic damage. And so +2 is not much, but it's a little something every time. And yeah, Psyblast. Just deal X D8 psychic damage that can't be avoided. Well, this is the best I kill you with my brain now, which Tao's always had a little bit of I kill you with my brain. So maybe there's going to be a little bit more of a buffing I kill you with my brain, less stabby. It's not going to feel very good, though. I can flavor text this one. I can pretend I'm attacking with the dagger, but instead of rolling it to hit, I'm just going to Psyblast them. And never use it at range. No, sometimes I'm throwing my dagger. I'm going to call this one Psionic Dagger Blast. Shut up. It's Psionic Dagger Blast. Maybe that's it. There you go. Done. It's not a ranged attack, so it's not like I am going to have problems if I use it in melee. Like, I realize it's still beta content, but some of it is really not balanced properly. It's very odd. Ego Whip. So that's fun too. Choose a creature within 60 feet. They do an intellect saving throw. It's 3d8 psychic damage, so for the psi points, it's totally in line with everything else. And if they fail that save, they take that damage. They are filled with self-doubt, leaving it able to use its action on its next turn, only to take dodge, disengage, or hide action. So you hit it for 3d8, and it can't hit back or cast spells. It's pretty good. And it does half damage on a success. So, I think we're going to call this one Ego Dagger. Shut up. Like, I think that's what ultimately is going to happen. Is even though I want Tao to be a dagger badass, she's going to be using this, and I'll just reflavor everything to be like, oh no, she's doing dagger shit. It's fine. Ignore it. Shut up. ID Insinuation. Choose a creature within 60 feet. Make a saving throw. If it fails, it takes 5d8. Again. So, I mean, this one's variable. 1 to 7 psi for 1 to 7d8 psychic damage. So, same thing. It's in line. So, you got the 5d8 as a base. Cool. Still, take half damage on a successful save. If it doesn't save, it takes the full damage. And it goes into a Fury. Runs rampant. Next turn, it can use its action only to take dodge or attack. So, again, this is probably only useful against a spellcaster, where you don't want them to cast spells. If someone's already going to want to attack, then that's not so useful. But, yeah, that's fine. It's like a better version of Ego Whip. They can still attack. Like, it's a more damaging version of Ego Whip. They can still attack, though. But against some people, that's totally good. You can shut... What's a wizard going to do? He's going to bop you with a staff? Who gives a shit? He'll probably just take the dodge. And then later on, so this is me next level, I get Psychic Blast, which is a cone, 60-foot cone, 8d8 psychic damage. Save for half. And you can increase the damage later on. So, Psionic Weapon is just poop. Maybe I'll talk to Briarstone and see if he wants to do a revised version of this. Again, like, so I have Lethal Strike, where I just automatically hit for this damage. I mean, maybe Psionic Blast is off balance. Maybe this is too strong. But still, I don't care. It's like, so, I'll just use these. Like, I'm okay with this. I mean, if they save, they don't take as much damage, but if they don't save, they're fucked. I don't think this is supposed to have a save either. Because the big thing with this is there's a lot of other abilities that have the same range, or actually bigger range, right? Think about that Immolation ability from above. It's 120 feet, for example. So they have the same range or bigger, the same damage or bigger. Immolation, again, is a D10. And a lot of them have an extra ability. They knock people down or whatever. So this doesn't have the same range. This doesn't have the extra stuff. It's a lot like a magic missile. Actually, I just realized, right? Think about this. So a first level spell in here would be the same example as a 1-psi ability. A first level magic missile does 3d4 plus 3. It fires 3 missiles, each do 1d4 plus 1. So it does 3d4 plus 3, never misses. This is the equivalent. It does less damage at level 1. You can scale up Magic Missile. I don't think it scales up as well as Sonic Blast here. So I think when you're talking about the equivalent of a 3rd level spell, 5 psi, or a 4th level spell, 7 psi, I suspect this does more damage. But I'm actually not sure about that. And unless I'm mistaken, Magic Missile has bigger range. I just realized I think this is just an overall weaker version of Magic Missile. For all I was saying, like, oh, this is crazy, this might be overpowered. I'm pretty sure it's just a weaker version of Magic Missile. It's possible that the top-end damage is not quite the same. For every spell slot, it creates 1 extra dart. Okay. So that's to say, for Magic Missile, for every 2 extra psi point, it does an extra d4 plus 1. So yeah, it definitely does not scale quite as well. The break-even point is probably around 3 psi points at level 2. So we're talking about 3d8 versus 4d4 plus 4. I'm not going to do the math, but I'm willing to bet that's pretty damn even and breakpointy. And I suspect that once you get to like 5 psi point and above, the Sonic Blast starts to become a little bit better. But yeah, it's about the same. And just to confirm, Magic Missile does have a 120-foot range. So this is just basically a slightly different version of Magic Missile. So it's not crazy. It's not overpowered at all. It's just not stabbing people with a goddamn dagger. That's okay. That's all right. Tao's ability is now, I stab people with a 5d8 dagger that never misses. I'm okay with that. That's less damage than she used to do when she hit, because the lethal strike is a d10 when you hit. So I mean, you compare these two, right? It's a d10 per psi point, so it's 5d10 versus 5d8. 5d10, clearly more damage, but only when you hit. Although, it will still add the d4 of the dagger and the plus 4, plus 5. I guess I'm doing plus 6 to hit right now, because 5 from the dex and it's a magic weapon, so plus 6. So I do an extra d4 plus 6 on top of the 1d10. And d4 plus 6, like that plus 6 is pretty solid damage. So, you know, it's probably, if this is a 5d8, this is probably effectively going to come out to be a 7 or 8d8 attack. But on a miss, it does nothing, and you still wasted all the points. I like stability. I will happily trade burst damage for more stability. Plus, it's ranged. And then you've got this shit over here, right? Like, I can guarantee the full 5d8, or here it's 5d8 save for half with cool shit, or 3d8 save for half with even cooler shit. It's too bad that this is less damage and can't be scaled up. And then later on you get some kick-ass stuff. So that's good. We gotta wrap this up here, but Sonic Disruption, Deception Check Advantage, that's pretty good. Jedi Mind Tricks. Although usually you don't kind of need one or another. It depends on how you present it to the DM, or like how you're actually flavor texting what you're saying. And a lot of times what I try to do is persuasion stuff rather than outright lying. I'm trying to convince people to go along with things. So the other ability, I think it was the Mantle of Joy, I don't remember, which gave us the advantage to persuasion checks, is going to be fine. Haze. There you go. Take 1d10 psychic damage, save for half. And if it hits, it can't see anything for more than 10 feet from it. What? So it half blinds a creature and does decent damage, save for half. It is a concentration effect. We got to keep that in mind, that that can be tricky because it can cancel their concentrations. Daze. And that's not great. 3 psi points, they get a saving throw, and they're incapacitated for 1 round. That's poop. Mindstorm. Oh, it's a fireball. It's literally a fireball. Fireball is 8d6. This is 6d8. I think fireball has higher range. I think it's 120-foot range. But the radius is the same. The damage is going to be about the same. And it gives disadvantage on all saving throws until the end of your next turn. So if you hit them once, they're not going to be saving again. So you can just keep brah, 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 brah. That's good. I'm not going to grab this for Tau, but it's really cool. Sonic Inquisition. I like this one. So you always know when a creature you're communicating with telepathy is lying. So if I'm talking to someone telepathically, I can always tell if they're lying or not. Hammer Inquisition, there's another D10 psychic attack, and suffer disadvantage on its next wisdom throw. Now, that is just wisdom. This is an intelligence throw, so you can't combo this. You'd have to alternate spells or something, but it's okay. Then you got different ways to, like, ask people whether they're lying or not. This is actually really cool, and I had some of this stuff before, which was very helpful. Ransack mind, just read their minds. I would love to have this again, but I don't think we can fit this into my build. Psychic Phantoms, I'm not going to create a bunch of illusions. Advantage on deception checks, always nice, though. Illusions, here's D10 psychic damage, which is cool. And melee attacks against that creature have advantage. That's really good. That's really good. Really good. But it's not the vibe. Telepathic contact. Right, now you can use your telepathy for up to 6 creatures simultaneously, which is kind of cool. And you can ask people questions, which Exacting Query is something that Tau had. It only came up like once or twice, and I think I'm okay with not having that. I mean, it's tempting. It's either going to be this, or one of, like, the Mantle of Awe or Mantle of Joy or something like that. Either I'm going to be good at reading people's minds, or I'm going to be good at manipulating them. And I think I'd rather the manipulation. Although this does have, you know, psychic domination and shit. And that's pretty cool. Broken Will. Third Eye. This is your 60-foot infravision. You just have, or dark vision. You just have it on all the time. You can also trigger some tremor sense and different things like that if you want, which is okay. True Sight. That's not bad, actually. Okay, then Psionic Talents. We do get 2 of these. These are basically cantrips we can use all the time. So here we've got a Light Spell, Blade Meld. It used to be that this would meld an object into your, like, body, and then you could bring it back. It was perfect Assassin's Tool. They just changed it so that, like, it becomes one with your hand so that you can't, like, drop the weapon. That's so much more boring than the old version. This is really cool. As an action, you erase your image from the mind of one creature you can see within 120 feet. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, or you're invisible to it until the end of your next turn. It's cool. I mean, they have to do the saving throw. And it is a full action, right? So you're not doing this for free, but it's neat that it exists. Right. Okay, Delusion. Nice thing about this is there's no saving throw on this. Plant a false belief in the mind of one creature you can see within 60 feet. Create sound or image. Only the target of this talent can perceive it. If you create a sound, whisper to a scream. It can be your voice, music, roar, whatever. Lasts 1 minute. If you create an object, must fit within a 5-foot cube, and it can't move or be reflective. Image can't create any effect that influences a sense other than sight. The image lasts for 1 minute and disappears if the creature touches it. So it's a very weak-ass illusion, but it's got a lot of potent applicability, right? The definite possibility for delusion. I only get 2 talents, though, so we're going to have to pick and choose here. Energy Beam. So this would be a 2d6, like, cantrip. Pew, 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 pew. This used to be my I kill you with my brain. That was exactly the same damage. I don't want an energy beam. Killing you with my brain sounds fun. I don't want an energy beam. Light Step. So bonus action, sure, but again, this is at will and whatever. Your movement speed is increased by 10 feet. And the first time you stand up this turn, you do so without expending any of your movement, because normally it costs half your movement to stand up. It's actually a nice option to have, especially since you can keep using the bonus action every round, so now all of a sudden you got a movement rate of 40 for, you know, running after people. That's a definite possibility. I only get 2, though, so... there's Mind Meld. As far as I know, most of this is the same as Telepathy, which we get for free. But this is new. You gain the access of a memory of one memory of the target's choice. But I can't force it. Like, as far as I know, this is just a remnant from a previous version or some damn thing. Mind Slam. So 60 feet, saving throw, or take 2d6 force damage. Not half. It can knock people down, though, and that's really interesting. I also like the fact that it's a mind effect. So it's not visible. You can do a little bit of damage and knock people on their ass as your action from a range. That's okay. Mind Thrust. Oh, actually, this is the one I had before. There we go. Mind Thrust. 120-foot range. 2d10 damage for me because I'm 5th level. If Mind Slam was more damage, it would be tempting. But yeah, Mind Thrust is a lot more damage, and it's something decent to have for flexibility. Big range. I've used my own Mind Thrust ability. I think it was called Mind Spear, actually, previously. I've used it quite often in a lot of situations where I couldn't get close. Decent base damage. It's fine. Int saving throw or take 2d10 damage to the brain as an action. I'm okay with that. I like how there's, like, Mystic Charm. So, Charisma saving throw, be charmed, just for a turn. Mage Hand. Who doesn't freaking love Mage Hand? And while Delusion is really powerful and is sort of Jedi mind tricky, Mage Hand is also cool. Psychic Hammer, I know it's being cut off. I can't scroll down any further than this. As an action, you try to grasp one creature you can see within 120 feet. Oh, so it's strength saving throw, take 1d6 damage. If they take it and they're small, you can move them. Okay, so we'll do 2d6 damage, and I can move them 10 feet in a direction. I can't pick them up, but I could potentially push them off a cliff. Obviously less damage than Mind Thrust, but does open up a few more options. It might be worthwhile. I think I'm going to go Delusion and Mind Thrust. As the sort of, like, I'm forcing my will into people to make them see things or to just make their brain hemorrhage. Mind Thrust is a good range attack when I'm low on power points and can't get in close enough to stab them. Honestly, it'll do about as much damage as my stab. Like my vanilla sort of stabbing, which would be, again, I'm going to be doing 1d4 plus 6. So that'll average 8.5 damage. And 2d10 will be averaging 9 damage. So yeah, it's about the same, except Mind Thrust is ranged. So, and probably, it depends on the creature and the situation. I would sort of expect that an int saving throw will, like, fail on the part of the monster just about as often as I hit. And it might actually even be a little bit better. It might actually be more consistent damage. I mean, it's not all about damage, though, but I've always liked that aspect. I wanted her to, you know, again, it's mostly like a mystic ninja, but I always wanted to have a few sort of, like, Jedi mind power-y kind of things going on, and that's the vibe. So, I unfortunately have 7 disciplines listed, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and I need to cut that down to 5. 2 of which have to come from almost certainly the Order of the Avatar. I'm not going to take the Wu-Gen. The goddamn Fireballs was there as, like, a comparison to everything else. As a sort of a baseline to consider. But I'm going to go for the Order of the Avatar. All allies get +2 initiative rolls. Hey, again, that's a good way to make yourself popular. Avatar of Healing is only useful if I take the Healing Discipline, which I won't. Which is too bad, because it is actually really cool. But the big thing is that it gives me shields, and almost certainly I was going to pick, I guess it's only these 2. I guess those are the 2 Avatar ones. So I'm taking Joy and Awe. Is that true? It's called Mantle, not Crown, right? Okay. Mantle of Awe. Well, I don't know, because the Psychic Focus isn't that useful. The Charming Presence was cool. So is the Center of Attraction. It's actually super cool to make everyone else invisible. Actually, I don't think the Mantle of Awe is the way to go. The problem with that... And the Mantle of Joy was very good, though. Was very good. It gives me advantage on Persuasion. I really want advantage on Persuasion checks. So I should write that down. Advantage on Persuasion. And the Soothing Presence is really good. This is good strength. Mostly I'm taking it for the ability to use the Psychic Focus. And Soothing Presence as a backup. Not exactly sure what the theme will be. I think it's going to be more of like an Iron Resolve kind of thing, more than anything else. Like Mantle of Joy is not as much Mantle of Joy as much as, like, yeah, the Jedi mind trick, like, I have a strong will. So my strong will is let me influence people with persuasion, and my strong will is also I can broadcast that to my allies to sort of stiffen their resolve and give us all temporary HP. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be using it for, and that's fine. The problem is, I do need another one of these Avatar disciplines, and I'm not sure what it is. Now, Nomadic Chameleon is the thing that gives me the advantage to stealth, and I really like that. It also gave me various, like, invisibility powers. Obviously, that's really good too. So I think those two are no-brainer. Again, that Nomadic Chameleon comes out of my 3 wild cards, not one of my 2 that have to come from the Avatar. Mastery of Air was really tempting for the I give disadvantage to attacks against me. Psychic, I think I have to take Psychic Assault because I think it's going to be my primary source of damage. So I am going to take either Intellect Fortress or Mastery of Air as a way to give disadvantage. Disadvantage to melee attacks. And I probably Mastery of Air because it's also got the flight stuff. So we do that. We don't take Intellect Fortress. So those are my 3 wild cards. That's one of my 2 Avatar ones. So I'm going to go through the list again. I'm going to have to end this video because it's gone on for 2 hours. Can't believe I've done this. I'm going to go through this again and look at the Avatar disciplines and try to decide which one of these is another good combo. Rage had some fun stuff. Despair was actually, I think, very tempting. Crown of Despair. Advantage on Intimidation is fun as shit. It gives me another way to do damage with the brain. Can't take reaction. That's okay. The reaction doesn't actually matter that much. Call to an action was really cool. I love that, where I just convinced someone to give up on life. And I can use Dolorous Mind to just shut down one person. They're not defenseless, but they can't attack. They can't move. Wait, can they move? Conditions. Incapacitated. Can't take actions or reactions. Okay, they can still move. They can still move with this. Although, they can't take an action, so they can't dash. So they can just single move 30 feet, so it's pretty meaningless. But yeah, I can basically take someone out of the fight. If it succeeds. Or I could just kill them. I like the advantage on intimidation checks. And call to an action seemed super fun. Disgust, I mean, it's just not a good theme, right? Crown of Rage is if I want to make myself a focus to attack. It's kind of funny with this focus in combat. And actually, I'll have to decide, in combat, what is my focus going to be? And can I afford to change it? If I grab precognition, for example, then this is the thing where advantage on initiative while focused. And that's really good, but it doesn't help me once we're in combat, and it would cost me a bonus action to change from this to, say, this, which is really good, although mostly makes me a target, although honestly I'm going to be really hard to hit. But honestly, Eric has made himself really good as a tank. He's very tough, and he's got some abilities that he's got the ability to rebuke people who actually hit him. So I don't think we want this. I don't think that helps that much. Fighting Words is fun, but meh. Mindless Courage, no, we're not going that. But yeah, so I still have the problem is, what do I do? So all of them I think are called the crowns or the mantles. So I have to go look at the mantles again and then decide. I mean, they're all good and they're all fine. Worst case scenario, I don't really use them much, and I guess that's okay. Right, Mantle of Joy I got. I should probably... I don't have precognition. I could drop Psychic Assault if I found another attack I was happy with in one of the existing fields. But yeah, I can't have precognition while having any of this. And I think, if I recall correctly, none of the other precognition things were things that I was convinced I would want to run, right? I mean, they're thematically very cool. Right, they give it's another way to get disadvantage. I could take this instead of Mastery of Air. That's tempting. Mastery of Air has the buff that keeps the disadvantage. This Also gives a way to give disadvantage as a response, so it doesn't use up one of my bonus actions. It might use more psi overall, but it's also more flexible, and then it's fine. Psychic focus would be my default thing when I'm running around. Except for the situations where I decide to change my focus. What's the psychic assault one? Oh yeah, a little bit bonus damage. That's fine. Which I'll probably ignore, except in social situations where I'm changing it because I need to get specifically a bonus to a persuasion, or I need to change it to a stealth thing. I'm going to be running this all the time. And then the question is if any of these others are worth using. I don't see myself really finding an opportunity to use that a lot, unless there's a moment to pre-buff before a fight. But this is my concentration. I mean, I guess the thing with the Mastery of Air is my concentration is going to be the dodgy thing. But I'm not taking Mastery of Air if I take Precognition. It's Precognition or Mastery of Air. The problem is this doesn't let me fly. Now, does flying work with Tau? Well, it does if you sort of flavor text it as sort of like the wuxia kind of moves, like you would find in sort of like Chinese martial arts movies, right? Where people are sort of taking ridiculously impossible jumps. That's the thing. The flight spells, the flight abilities in Mastery of Air. Well, I mean, there's the proper flight, right? There's wind form, which is proper flight. But if you ignore that one and just look at wind step, that almost looks like it's just a big jump. Those sort of like wuxia, kung fu movie, really big, like all of a sudden I jump from the ground into the top of a tree because whatever. So I think it fits the theme. But again, Cloak of Air is concentration. Did I want concentration from any of these? I don't think so. The Cloak of Air and the invisibility powers both take concentration. But I think that's okay. I think that will maybe in some occasions conflict, but not often. And I want the advantage to stealth. That's just too important. So yeah, okay. I think I will stick with Mastery of Air. The one downside, though, again, with Precognition, is that I won't need to rely on a concentration effect for my defensive purposes, which opens up the idea of another mantle. Yeah, I don't care about that. Remove fear. Or victory was what? It's concentration. Yeah, they gain 10 HP when something goes down. But that's not as good at all as the Mantle of Joy. Or the... Yeah, the... Holy shit, it's not even concentration. Soothing Presence is the... Oops, spell it right. Is the bonus action... non-concentration, plus 15 or whatever, temp HP. It's super good. So, Aura Victory, you run it all the time. You gain temp HP whenever things go down, but it's not that meaningful. I mean, you could cancel the fear effect, but it doesn't happen that often. Maybe I will grab the Mantle of Command after all. Or I just grab Mantle of Awe for like the ability to do the Charming Presence, which is fun. Center of Attention is actually super cool too. So it focuses on me and everyone else becomes invisible, like my allies. You know what? I want Mantle of Awe. Because there's actually quite a few situations I can see myself using this. I don't see myself using the Psychic Focus, ever. Because most likely, in those kinds of situations, I'll probably run advantage on Persuasion and just use that. Because as long as you flavor text your actions in such a way that it's a Persuasion as opposed to an Intimidation, or as opposed to a Deception, this is going to be stronger. And really, honestly, right now it would just be a +1. +1's not worth that much. Whereas Charming Presence is cool. Cool. Oops. Because it's psi times 2d8 HP of people get charmed for 10 minutes. So again, if I do some quick math, so the average roll on a D8 will be 4.5. So we're talking about 9 per psi times 5 pp, so 45 hit points. And if we divide that by, say, 8, let's assume the average commoner has 8. So that's 5.6. So even if they have like a con bonus or something like that, I should be able to use this to just like charm 5 average dudes in any given situation. Walk into a bar, 5 people are now on my side in every argument. That's okay. And center of attention is cool. And that's about it. Now I need another mantle. So this one's not going to come up as often, but I think this is going to be my second avatar ability. I got some good teammate stuff. +2 to initiatives. Give them the 10 HP. My teammates are going to love me forever. And then I just kill people without, like, missing. And I can invisibility my whole group. Good. I'm happy. So I've got to put this into the character sheet and, like, change things pretty dramatically. I got to redo all my skills, because a lot of my skill assumptions were based on the fact that a lot of the abilities I had before were giving me a ton more skill access that I could swap around, and I don't have that anymore, but I think we're going to be okay. Thanks for watching. See you next time.